Prologue. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw the light, and that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. Genesis 1:1-3. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the last rays of light faded away, a hidden world emerged from the shadows, nestled within the familiar contours of our own. This is a realm of darkness, where the recognizable becomes strange and evil takes center stage. The city, once abuzz with activity, now lies hushed and still, its streets bathed in an eerie twilight. The towering buildings cast long and menacing shadows, their windows like vacant eyes staring out into the night. The parks, once filled with the laughter of children, become dark and lurid. In the depths of the forest, the trees stand like silent sentinels, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal arms. The air is thick with the malodorous scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, the scifiaudiobook broken only by the occasional howl of an owl or the rustle of small animals scurrying through the undergrowth. Along the secluded country roads, the darkness seems to press in from all sides, obscuring the landscape and playing tricks on the mind. Every shadow takes on the form of a lurking menace, every creak of a tree branch a whisper of unseen danger. This is where the laws of reality seem to bend and distort, where the invisible forces that govern our world come to the fore. It is a realm of fear and danger, where the only certainty is the darkness that surrounds us. And within this darkness there is also a sense of apprehension. It is a world where the imagination can run wild, where anything is possible. For it is in the shadows that the true nature of things is revealed, and it is in the depths of darkness that we can discover the true horror of this other world. Chapter 1. The Medieval Monk. Detective Carmichael, Baz to his friends, was just leaving the office when Sergeant Sullivan pulled him aside. "Look, Baz, I've just had a call from up high. They need someone to go out to the woods and meet a Professor Imerose who is looking for something," putting two hands up and making quotations with his fingers. "It's all very mysterious, but like I said, it comes from the top brass." "What? You want me to go? Gee, Sarge, I've just pulled a 10-hour shift looking for missing persons. I'm whacked. Isn't there anyone else who can go?" said Baz, rubbing his eyes. "Sorry, pal. You should have got out the door sooner. Take Officers James and Richardson with you," said the sergeant, putting his books into a briefcase and turning off his computer. "Oh, don't spend more than 2 hours on this guy. You're in early tomorrow." "Thanks, boss," said the detective, the sarcasm heavy in his voice. Detective Carmichael knew why Sullivan had picked him. It wasn't the fact Baz thought his job was good. No, Sullivan was old school, and Baz was the youngest detective on the force. Maybe the sergeant didn't realize it, but he made the officer prove he deserved to wear that badge at every opportunity. There were no handouts in his precinct. Baz knew this and was determined to prove Sullivan wrong. He grabbed the two officers from their desks and made a coffee to go. Baz's car was in the shop, having the brake pads changed yet again, so he walked down to the car park precinct, climbed into a spare black and white, and told the officers to get in the back. The patrol car crept through the deserted city streets, the silence broken only by the crackle of the radio transceiver and the ceaseless drumming of the roof on the rain. Baz took a long, hot sip of the bitter station coffee. The caffeine was a necessary shield against the exhaustion pressing behind his eyes. In the back, James and Richardson were unnervingly quiet. They were all wondering the same thing. What kind of mysterious something warranted hauling 3 officers into the woods at this hour? "Has anyone got a clue what this is about?" James muttered. "You know as much as any of us. I'm hoping this mysterious person ain't there so we can all go home," Baz shrugged, taking the turn onto the dark county road. The street lamps quickly gave way to the dense, oppressive shadows of the state forest. Richardson leaned forward slightly. "Do you think this could be a drug drop, Detective?" "If it was, the brass would have sent more of us. This is a quick and dirty favor for someone with serious pull, probably looking for a lost briefcase or a politician's embarrassing photo album," Baz said, leaving the city lights behind him in his rearview mirror. He squinted through the windshield, the wipers struggling to keep pace with the deluge. The police car headlights cut through the swirling downpour, probing the inky blackness, searching for any sign of their destination. As they rounded a curve, a single vehicle came into view, parked on the muddy verge. The car's beam revealed a man leaning against a beaten-up Carmen Ghia that shone from the heavy rain. He was wearing a rain-soaked black cape, his head bowed, a dark hood pulled low over his face that made him look like a medieval monk. Detective Carmichael went up to him, pulled his coat over his neck, and walked up to him. The man didn't move. He just stood there, a statue in the chaos, staring into the forest. His lips were moving, but no sound came out, as if mumbling to himself. "Sir, are you Professor Imerose?" said the detective, tapping him on the shoulder. The professor jolted, as if coming out of a trance. "Ja," he said, turning to look at him. His German accent was thick, dense, but clearly enunciated. "Look, Prof, I'm calling you Prof. My boss said you wanted some help to find something. I don't know what you're looking for, but me and the boys were out here earlier looking for 2 girls that went missing a couple of days ago and didn't find anything," said the detective, barely concealing his frustration. "Ja, I know. This is the reason why I'm here. Tell me, detective, do you believe in evil?" "I see it every day. You don't do my job and not believe in it," Baz answered, dismissing the old man's outburst and wondering what that had to do with the fact his toes were starting to feel numb. "So what are we out here for?" "A creature of the night of some sort. It might look like a wild animal, a rogue wolf, or something else," said the professor. "Ah, you want the NPS, not us. They deal with things like that," said the rain-soaked detective, hoping this was the end of his involvement. "Look, officer, I won't take up much of your time, and hopefully this will stop anyone else from going missing." This made the detective's ears prick up. "Hang on, what do you mean? Do you know something about this case? If you're withholding evidence, pal, maybe you and I should go back to the station and you start telling me what's going on." "Calm down, detective. I cannot help you with your missing girls case. We are out here to stop a creature. I cannot tell you what it looks like because I haven't seen it," said the professor, looking him straight in the eye. Baz got a look at the old man. Gray-haired, good-looking in his day, his face looked well-educated but weather-beaten, much too smart to be standing in a rain-soaked forest late at night. "I should take you in right now, but I know your friends would only tell me to let you go," said Baz, liking the man less and less. After shrugging off the detective's remarks, the professor said, "Well, shall we make a start?" From the trunk of his car, he pulled a 3-foot metal pole with what seemed to be a street lamp on the end and an old heavy battery pack, and placed them on the ground. "If you don't mind, officer," nodding to the 2 objects on the floor. Baz huffed, wondering what kind of crap detail he had been given. Then the professor reached back into the trunk to grab an old lantern from under a blanket, which he threw over his shoulder and stood ready to go. Detective Carmichael beckoned over the 2 reluctant officers to grab the items. "So where to?" Still huffing. Baz watched as the professor revealed 2 metal rods from under his coat and balanced them carefully in front of him and said, "This way." Detective Carmichael took the lead with his flashlight, then the professor, followed by James and Richardson, who were shining their torches in all directions. But as they walked toward the edge of the forest, the professor stopped. "What is it, Prof?" said Baz. "It's waiting for me," he said, staring deep into the forest. "Let's just get on with it, shall we?" Baz couldn't believe the nonsense coming out of this strange old man, anger and frustration setting in. Entering the forest, Baz's mood changed. Something seemed off. The wind howled like 1,000 banshees, leaves and rain flew in every direction, and the trees seemed to breathe and shift with a sinister life of their own.
Chapter 2. The White Rabbit. The sun slowly dipped below the jagged edge of the tree line. Way off in the distance, the bright orange sky looked like a painting that could have hung in the York Museum. But now, dark, precipitous clouds slowly draped across the sun's fiery kiss. Below was a different world entirely. The last filter of light through the forest canopy had died completely, transforming shadows into a labyrinth of fear. The driving rain, heavy with the scent of damp earth and the decay of millennia. From the darkness, 3 flashlights hurriedly danced against the backdrop of the trees, revealing brief silhouettes that twisted into hideous shapes before settling back into something more natural. The darkness was now so complete it seemed to swallow the very light from the sky. A snapping twig behind Officer Richardson made him jump, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs. He spun around, eyes wide, flashlight searching, but saw only the endless wall of trees. Was it just the wind playing tricks? He quickened his pace, moving closer to the others. The windy deluge threw itself with all the vigor of an ice-cold hairdryer onto Detective Carmichael's rain-sodden face. There was nothing subtle about the terror that knotted the detective's stomach with each step he took into the gloom. How much farther? This weather is getting bad. We may have to call it quits tonight. No, we are nearly there, just through these bushes, in that direction, the professor said, pointing slightly to the right. They came to a small glade, maybe 10 feet round. The professor told the men to put the equipment down and started fitting the items together. The beam shone dimly up to the edge of the clearing. "Now what?" said the confused detective. "We wait. It will be angry once it realizes there is no way back and nowhere to hide," said the professor, staring into the dark trees. "I'm not waiting too long. No animal in the world will come near us now the light is on," said Baz, thinking the man was losing his marbles. "The light has cut off its escape, detective. It's not coming for that," the professor said, still scanning the tree line. "What is it coming for?" Then the penny dropped. "Shit. Really? Okay, old man. 5 more minutes, and then we're out of here. This is an NPS matter," said Baz. They stood there facing the darkness that encroached on them on every side, waiting for something, but not sure what. The silence was only broken by the rain and the sound of an owl or the wind rustling the leaves. The lull was suddenly broken by a loud thrumming noise playing Vivaldi's 4 Seasons, which made everyone jump. Officer James looked down at his phone. "Ah, shit, it's the wife. I gotta take this. I forgot to tell her I was going to be late home," and he walked a few paces into the darkness. "Don't wander too far. The professor's monster could be out there," said Baz with a small, cynical smile, relaxing slightly after the jolt from the ringtone. Even the rain had eased up a little. "Okay, that's it. Let's call it a night, Professor. It's really late. Not even your creature would be out in this." But the professor wasn't listening. His hooded head was pointed at the ground, as if he was listening to something far off in the distance. "Yes, darling, I should have called. Well, you shouldn't have done that. Oh dear, that does sound nasty," said the besieged Officer James, standing in a small clearing, maybe 50 feet away from the others. His torch was the only light that peered into the darkness. The sound of his wife's logorrhea was like a mosquito buzzing in his ear. Suddenly, there was a snap of a twig behind him. Calmly, he said, "I'm going to have to ring you back, honey," and canceled the call. Officer James spun around and pointed his flashlight into the brush. "Detective, is that you?" His eyes widened with a mixture of terror and panic, and getting no answer, he reached for his Beretta. His heart started to pound like a big bass drum. His hands were clammy and breath shallow.
Shining his flashlight's beam on the dark trees in front of him, it slowly revealed a huge wolf-like creature. It had massive, sharp teeth with yellow drool and eyes that glowed a malevolent red. Before he had time to react, its huge paws had pinned Officer James to the ground. The sound of 2 loud gunshots echoed all around them, followed by a scream from a man who was truly in pain. "Richardson, with me! Professor, stay here, but don't wander off," said the detective, and with that, the 2 remaining officers ran in the direction of their colleagues' cries. Officer James was rolling in agony, clutching a blood-soaked arm as the 2 officers burst out of the trees. Baz caught sight of something massive running into the shadows, but turned immediately to the sight of the downed officer. "I've been bitten by a bloody werewolf!" cried James. Richardson knelt next to him and examined the arm, pulling up the wet sleeve. Blood poured out of several deep puncture marks in James's forearm. "It came out of nowhere. It was huge, straight out of a horror movie. It lunged at me. I managed to block its teeth with my arm. God, it was strong. I fired off a couple of shots before he pinned my other arm. I know I hit it, Detective." "How is he?" Baz asked. "He'll live," Richardson said, ripping a piece of his own shirt and using it as a tourniquet. Baz looked on the ground and saw small droplets of blood that trailed off into the forest. He started to follow the trail into the brush when Richardson said, "Boss, James has lost a lot of blood and he's going into shock. We have to get him back to a hospital." "Can you walk?" Baz said. James nodded, shakily getting to his feet. "Richardson, take James back to the car and take him to St. Mary's. I will get a ride with the professor." "You can come out now. I know you were here," said the professor, clutching the old lantern he had brought from his car. Slowly, from the shadows, emerged a tall, man-like white rabbit, standing on 2 legs, its teeth sharp and eyes glowing red. It moved closer, then stopped, making sure it never came fully into the light. "Go back to the darkness, demon. I have cut off your escape. You cannot return. Run and hide, Umbre. There are no caves to save you. Your fate is sealed. Once the sun comes up, you will disappear from this world." The hideous creature did not move its lips from its evil grin. It just stood there, swaying. In a wispy, deep voice that seemed to come from nowhere, carried on a strident wind, the Umbre said, "So you are the famous Professor Gustave Imeros, I presume. You think you are so smart that you can hunt us down? Silly man. The human race will always be our prey, whether we take them back to feed on them or just hunt them for sport like tonight. You will never stop us. I have tonight, demon, and you will be one less Umbre on this earth. The dominance of your kind is over. Go, hide under a rock if you can, but it won't do you any good. The door is now closed," said the professor, thrusting the lantern towards the Umbre. "I have had my fun, but now I will return to the darkness and find a new place to play, if you know what I mean. I am looking forward to seeing you again. You have been quite entertaining," said the creature, slowly backing into the shadows. "Oh, and by the way, you might want to check your compass. Goodbye, mortal." The professor looked down at his compass and then grabbed the metal rods. They were slightly out of alignment.
"What the hell was that?" said Baz, running out of the darkness. Turning around in surprise, the professor said, "That detective was evil." "But you were talking to it. It looked like a giant man covered in fur. What did you say to it?" said the officer, shaken up by what he had seen and pointing his gun into the brush. "The creature is not what you think it is, or as you perceive it to be. We must stop it before it can attack again," said the professor. "What the hell is going on, old man?" Baz said angrily, confused and tired, worried the rain and his weary body were playing tricks on him. He had quite enough of this madman's ramblings, but couldn't get the creature out of his head. "Okay, Professor, the others have gone back to the car. James has a nasty gash on his arm, and I've had enough of this for tonight. NPS can come back and hunt for that bear tomorrow," convincing himself that it was only a bear and nothing else. "Detective, I need you to help me move the light 80 feet in that direction to stop that thing from coming back," said the professor, looking at his compass and pointing into the darkness. "Hell no," said Baz. "If there's a bear running around out there, I'm not hanging around. I'm cold, wet, tired, and had enough of this shit." "I understand what you were saying, Detective, but if you're wrong, and it's not a bear you saw me talking to, we can stop the creature tonight. It won't take long, and then we can go," said the professor, putting his hand on Baz's shoulder and smiling in a reassuring manner. Detective Carmichael, not wanting to argue with him anymore, picked up the heavy battery and followed the professor, holding the light into the forest. Baz's senses heightened. Before, all he could hear was the constant drumming of the rain, but now a cacophony of rustles, creaks, and groans seemed to emanate from all around. He listened intently, trying to discern patterns, to rationalize the sounds, bracing himself for anything that might happen. The professor stopped dead in his tracks. "Did you hear that?" Baz tried to concentrate through the rain, but all he heard was the deluge that surrounded them. "There! Did you hear it this time?" A sound of a twig breaking came from just in front of them. "Stay behind me, old man," said the detective, and moved forward, gun in hand, and shining his light into the darkness. Through the rain, he saw 2 red eyes staring back at him. Startled, 2 shots rang out from his Glock 9mm. The eyes disappeared, and he heard a sound of something dashing away through the bushes. He rushed to where the scary cryptid had been standing. Nothing. Baz's heart was pumping louder than the rain itself. A hand touched his shoulder, and Baz spun around, ready to defend himself. "It was just a deer, officer. Look," said the professor, standing there and pointing to the ground, then putting his other finger on Baz's gun to lower the barrel away from his chest. The detective shined his light on the ground. He saw twin hoof tracks that disappeared into the forest. Taking a deep breath and a sigh of relief, Baz said, "How much farther, Professor?" The old man looked up and pointed to the left, without saying a word. As Baz followed on behind, the air felt even colder, heavier, and thicker. His breath became labored, and it felt like the darkness itself was pressing in on him from all sides. A particular strong gust of wind seemed to be pushing his legs in the direction of the professor. Looking at the rods, then down at his compass, the old man said, "Just here will do." It was a smaller clearing than the first, but big enough for the light to shine in all directions. Baz stood watch. His senses and adrenaline were in full play. Something seemed off about this place, and his body shivered with a biting cold he had never felt before. At his feet, the professor began to set up the light on the ground once more. "What about the bear? How is that going to stop it?" said the detective, wondering what he had gotten himself into. Brushing dirt from his hands, the professor replied calmly, "If it was a bear, it's either wounded or dead. Either way, I think it is long gone. There's nothing we can do tonight. Shall we go, detective?" Offering no further detail, the professor added, "It would be prudent not to hang around, just in case." And without waiting for an answer, he turned and marched off in the direction they had come. Too tired to argue with him, even if he could, Detective Carmichael quickened his pace to keep up. No longer sure of what was going to happen next, his gaze sharpened. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of the wet leaves sent a jolt of ice through his veins. The professor's harsh march back to the car was determined and hurried. He stopped occasionally to peer into the shadows, but never for long, moving off after satisfying himself it was safe. Carmichael's mind raced over the images he had seen that night. Too many things didn't add up. Was it a bear, or was it the professor's creature? The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. The rain had stopped by the time they reached the familiar curves of the Carmen Gia. The 2 men stood there for a moment, hands on knees, lungs working overtime to restore oxygen to their bloodstream. Baz decided to chalk the incident up as just another crazy night in the life of a police detective. After regaining his composure and trying to understand the absurdity of it all, he smiled to himself, no longer caring about anything else besides getting out of his wet clothes. After opening the car door, he looked up at the professor and said in a breathless voice, "So, what did you say to the bear?" "He just told him to go away and not come back," said the professor, now with a glazed, blank expression on his face. Tired and exhausted, the detective offered a melancholy nod. "That makes sense," and slowly sank into the seat of the car. Chapter 3. A Wanting Wail. "Order up! 2 doubles, no cheese, extra heavy on the pickles," roared Ja Baptiste from behind the grill. He didn't just cook, he conducted. Over the hot steam and spitting patties, his forearms, scarred by hot oil, waved around like Dutch windmills. A bear of a man who was born in Guadeloupe came to this country with nothing and built himself up to be the manager of the Sizzlin' Grub, a coffee and burger bar on the edge of town, a role he took very seriously. The atmosphere in the restaurant was a ballet of chaos. The din of chatter, the crash of pots, and the clack of crockery made it hard for Adam to concentrate. Adam Jones was a hard-working 23-year-old who had been working at the burger bar for the past year. He was a reliable and popular employee. Ja, who had no children, regarded him as his successor, as Adam always went the extra mile to make sure that his customers were happy. Adam punched in 1 super deluxe and a latte, heavy on the cream. "Beep, beep, beep," came from the touchscreen. "That'll be $9.99, please, Mrs. Peabody," and pointed where to tap her card. As soon as he heard the ding of the card reader, he swung around to give Ja the order and grab a cup for the latte, narrowly missing Sarah, the waitress. "Watch it, Adam," she hissed, giving him a dirty look, and pushed the door to the kitchen. Sarah had a superpower. She could weave through a packed dining room like an Olympic ice skater. Whereas Sarah was a very pretty girl, she always looked down on Adam. She was going to marry someone who had better prospects. A crash of dishes hitting the floor bellowed from the back of the kitchen. "For Christ's sake, be careful, you two," said Ja, looking at Sarah and Joe, who was in charge of the so-called dish pit, a massive stainless steel sink engulfed in steam from the industrial dishwasher. It was the heart of the kitchen, and the whole operation would come to a grinding halt if Joe let up for a minute. Sarah just left the dishes on the floor for Joe to pick up and raced to the front of the restaurant, just stopping long enough to turn to him and give the obligatory dirty look. For over an hour, nobody had time to think of anything else besides the job in hand. They just moved like a well-oiled machine, born from a state of panic. Adam forgot he was tired, Ja forgot his back hurt, and Sarah and Joe avoided each other like the plague. And then, as quickly as it began, the tidal wave turned into a trickle. Adam looked up as if he was putting his head above the parapet to see normality. Ja scraped the grill down and turned off the main exhaust fan. "Okay, you two, I can take it from here. Be back in half an hour. Sarah will be going home then, so don't be late." The back door swung open, and Joe poked his head out, followed by Adam, patting him on the back, both gasping a sigh of relief. "Whew, that was busy today," said Adam, with Joe nodding in agreement. "What was all that about with Sarah?" said Adam, taking a sip of his flat white. "God knows, man," said Joe. "She seemed to be even more up her arse than usual," propping himself up against the back wall. "Come on, we all know you have the hots for her, mate. You practically drool every time you're near her," said Adam, smiling. Joe, not denying it, said, "Look, me and her can never be. I'm too much of an animal for her. I'd wear her out," and they both laughed. Joe was a bit of a geek. He liked to play role-playing games, and often played online. Adam knew Joe had no chance with the pretty waitress, but would never say so. He was too much of a friend. "Oh yeah, you still seeing that bird tonight?" said Joe, changing the subject. "What bird?" said Adam with a strange look on his face. "I'm sure you said you were supposed to be going on a date with a hot chick or something like that yesterday," said Joe, puzzled. "No, I don't think so. I don't know any hot chick. If I was, I would have asked Ja if I could go home early." Adam said, even more puzzled, thinking Joe was yanking his chain. Joe stood there for a minute, unsure of what to say next. Had he imagined it after eating too many of his favorite gummy bears the other night? Or was Adam playing coy? Oh, maybe it was somebody else who told me. Whatever.
The evening service was a lot calmer than the afternoon chaos, and with Sarah not there, a lot more light-hearted. "See you tomorrow, boys," said Ja, as he left Adam and Joe to finish up once the last customer had gone. The boys had their last cup of Joe of the day, and Joe waved goodbye as Adam locked up. Adam's mind was deep in thought when he cut through the park. It was late, and he was in a rush to get home. He didn't notice the lights in the park casting long, eerie shapes that seemed to shift and change as he walked. Slowly, the path became dimmer and dimmer. He suddenly noticed the rustle of the leaves and the creak of branches, which seemed to amplify in the stillness of the night. Adam, who didn't scare easily, started to get a feeling of unease. The light in the park barely penetrated the thick veil of darkness. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of something in the shadows. He looked again, but there was nothing there. He decided to walk faster. From behind him, a woman called his name, Adam, in a wanting wail. He spun around, but there was nothing but shadows that seemed to dance and writhe with a life of their own. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was watched by something that was lurking just out of sight. He turned and bolted like a scared rabbit. There was a voice in the wind, but he couldn't make it out. He didn't hang around to find out. Not stopping until he was out of the park, grabbing his knees and gasping for air. He looked in the direction of the park, ready to run again if anything was there. There was nothing but dark shadows. Even the wind was still and silent. He walked off. The brightness of the lights of the city were hurting his eyes at first, and as with his eyes, his thoughts returned to normal, shrugging off the encounter as his mind playing tricks on him. The creak of the rusty old hinges announced Adam's arrival before he even stepped into the house. Inside, a warm glow pulsed from the living room, a beacon in the winter twilight. He kicked off his shoes, their damp squelch momentarily masked by the comforting hum of the TV. Adam and his mother had lived in the house all his life. It had belonged to his grandmother, but she died when he was a child. He never knew his father. His mother just said it was a soldier she met one night and never saw again. "Just me, Ma," he mumbled, rounding the corner into the living room. There, curled up on the sofa, was his mother, a worn paperback cradled in her hands. Her face, lit by the soft lamplight, crinkled at the corners of her eyes as she looked up. "Adam, back so soon," she said sarcastically. "How was your shift?" He sank onto the armchair, tension in his muscles melting away. "Long," he sighed, "and busy. Mrs. Peabody kept demanding extra whipped cream on her latte." A snort of laughter escaped her mother. "Sounds like someone needs a break. Did you grab dinner?" He rolled his eyes. "Of course not. You know I live on caffeine and wishful thinking." She smiled. "Well, wishful thinking won't fill your stomach. Come on, I made your favorite lentil soup and crusty bread." The aroma that hit him in the kitchen was enough to banish his exhaustion. He devoured the meal, his mother's stories about her day weaving a gentle hum around him. Finally, with a full belly and a lighter heart, he announced, "I think I'm going to hit the hay, Ma." "Sweet dreams, honey, and don't forget your laundry." He rolled his eyes, a smile playing on his lips. "Yes, Ma, you're worse than Mrs. Peabody with the instructions."
His heavy limbs slowly trudged up the stairs to his bedroom. The usually chaotic sanctuary of the man-cave musings was now bathed in the warm afterglow of his mother's love. He moved the Fender Telecaster, a classic '66, off the bed. It needed new strings, and he hardly ever played anymore. Adam often thought he should sell it, but somehow he could never bring himself to take it down to the music shop. Worth thousands now, of course, a gift from his grandmother. He glanced at the poster on his wall, advertising his band's smash debut album, The Devil's Due, 3 years ago. Except he wasn't on it. Adam had left just months before they got signed. They didn't seem to be going anywhere. One more bad choice in a lifetime of bad choices. Adam tried not to dwell on the past too much. What was the point? As he drifted off to sleep, the clinking of spoons from downstairs and the murmur of his mother's voice were the lullaby that soothed him. A reminder that even the longest shift couldn't diminish the comfort of home and the quiet, unwavering love of a mother. That night, sleep came like a reluctant thief. He found himself again in the park, but now he could see who was calling him. It was a young woman of ethereal beauty with moonlight woven into her hair, who beckoned him from the edge of a dim light on the path. Her voice, a melody laced with desperation as she whispered his name. "Adam, please, I need you." He saw the raw terror in the girl's eyes and her outstretched hand. But just as her hand brushed the light, a monstrous shadow of something unseen but terrible yanked her back into the darkness, her plea dissolving into a scream. No form, just edges that writhed and pulsed. The air around it crackled with malice. The shadow lurked at the edge of his vision, slowly metamorphosizing into a monstrous demon, 8 foot tall, with long horns coming from its forehead and giant hooves. A rasping voice slithered into his ear. "Turn back, mortal. She is not salvation, but oblivion." He jolted upright in his bed, the voice still echoing through his veins. Was the girl real? And the demon? What was it? Adam lay awake staring at the ceiling, the memory of his nightmare firmly in his head. He was still trying to work out why him when the alarm clock shocked him from his thoughts. Later on that day, Adam was talking to Joe, once again out the back of the sizzling grub, taking a break after the lunchtime rush. Knowing Joe as he did, Adam thought he would like to hear about his nightmare and the beautiful young lady. "Dude, you won't believe the dream I had last night." "Okay, spill it, bud," Joe replied, leaning in with a salacious smirk. "Was it about Sarah? I dream about her all the time, if you know what I mean," digging Adam in the ribs. "Tell me more." Adam looked at Joe with an understanding smile. "No, it wasn't, but I wish it was." They both laughed. Adam looked straight at Joe. "So I'm in this park, right? It's late, deserted, hardly any streetlights. I'm walking along the path, and something feels off, you know?" Adam remembered the prickling dread that had crawled up his spine, even in the safety of the burger bar. "Out of the shadows, I see this girl." "Did she have any clothes on?" Joe interrupted him with a lecherous smile. "No, but that's besides the point. Just listen for a minute." Adam continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. "But she was beautiful, dark hair and a pale complexion. I looked into her eyes. I thought she knew me. It felt like she was, I don't know, terrified, Joe, as if she wanted me to help her somehow. She reached out to grab me. That's when I saw it, this shape, like a twisted ink blot against the darkness. Then it started slowly transforming into a hideous demon." Adam continued, "No, you don't get it. I heard her voice in the park earlier that night, before I got home. I didn't see her. She just called my name, and I felt the darkness creeping up on me. It was scary, dude, so I panicked and ran." "Wait, you heard this ghost chick in the park, not dreaming but awake? Now that's weird even for me. You sure you weren't smoking some weed without me?" Joe smiled. Just then, Ja, their manager, opened the back door and shouted out, "Back to work, you two, now! Joey, get on the wash-up. Adam, I need you to phone Visconti's for tomorrow's order." Adam decided not to take the walk through the park, but as he walked around it, he felt something was drawing him in, as if it was looking for him. Staying to the streetlights, he got to his creaking door, unlocked it, and went through. It was all getting all too silly, and maybe a comedy on Netflix might help. His mother was not in.
She had most probably gone out to play bridge with her other pink-haired 60-something friends. He looked in the kitchen for food. There was a handwritten note with X's for kisses, saying, "It's in the oven." Inside, 2 hot steak bakes were waiting for him. He sat down and watched TV, did the dishes, and folded his laundry from the night before. Exhausted, he lay on the bed, limbs spread-eagled, and took off his glasses. It didn't take long to fall asleep. A peaceful sleep now sorely desired. However, as unconsciousness arrived, peace was cruelly denied, and another dream materialized. Adam stood on a dark, suffocating world. An inky blackness stretched before him, vast and unyielding. In this surreal subconscious landscape, surrounded by swirling mist, he was a protagonist, searching for meaning in the kaleidoscope of his dream. Then, from the swirling fog, a shadow emerged, coalescing into a figure of a girl. Her skin was as wispy as dandelion fluff, her hair a cascade of night stardust. Her eyes, twin pools of ocean blue, glittered with urgency.
Her voice, a melody on the wind, whispered, "Help me." He reached out, fingers brushing empty air, a phantom touch against her luminous form. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice a breathy echo in the dream's silence. "I am Lilly. Don't you know me?" she sighed. Her breath, a silver mist that coiled around him. "Save me from that thing. Help me." The urgency in her words hung heavy in the air. "Draw me before you forget my likeness, trapping me here forever." She looked round and saw something in the darkness, and she was gone. Adam woke breathless, the phantom melody of her voice still echoing in his skull. He fumbled for a paper and pencil, anything to capture her likeness. The flimsy tools suddenly his only lifeline to her otherworldly image. On the blank page, her face slowly blossomed. His pencil danced across the page. Light strokes sketched the delicate framework of her skin. Each line a prayer, begging her not to vanish back into the realm of slumber. Lines blurred, and the strokes rebelled, refusing to hold the impossible beauty of her ethereal form. Her hair resisted his attempts to tame it into earthly curls. Her eyes refused to show the unseen horrors that chased her. The woman on the canvas grew with each stroke, but something remained elusive. Her form was there, but her essence, the flicker of light that had danced in the darkness of his dream, remained stubbornly out of reach. The unfinished portrait stared back at him, a mockery of the beauty he had glimpsed. It lacked the defiant ember in her eyes that had lit his own spirit. Hours bled into dawn, the sun a silent witness to his struggle. And for now, she remained trapped beyond his reach, lost to the unraveling reality of the morning. Chapter 4. The Shadowy Figure. Adam emerged from the back door of the sizzling grub, the scent of fries and burgers clinging to his clothes like a badge of honor, and stood in the alleyway relishing the quiet escape after the drone of raised voices and clatter of dishes. His thoughts were on the events that had disturbed him the night before, when a gruff voice startled him. "Hey, dude, how's it hanging?" said Joe, standing behind him. "Hey, Joe, to the left as always," they both laughed. "Adam, I've been thinking about your dream," Joe said. "Don't bother," Adam hesitated, then blurted out, "I had another dream about the girl. She said her name was Lilly, and I should draw her. Then she disappeared. I tried to sketch her, but I can't seem to get her likeness right, and I doubt I ever will. So that's the end of that." Putting his arm around Adam, Joe looked him in the eye. "Maybe not. I know what's happening." He paused for a moment, then spoke, his voice tinged with a strange knowing of what was happening to Adam. "It sounds like you encountered an umbre, pal." Adam's eyebrows shot up. "Umbre? What?" "Nasty shadow creatures,"
his friend explained. His eyes gleamed with a mix of excitement and apprehension. They feed on fear of humans and live in the darkness, trapping souls in their shadows. Their forms twist and change based on whoever they're trying to scare. The chill from Adam's nightmare returned, amplified by the realization of what Joe had said. So you're saying that thing in the park wasn't just my imagination? Maybe not, Joe shrugged, but you wouldn't be the first person in this world to have an encounter with an umbre, especially in a place like an old park, full of dark corners and forgotten memories of old. The conversation began to take a darker turn. My friend encountered one last week, actually. He was lucky to survive. I saved him, said Joe, as Adam listened to his enlightened friend. A strange mix of fear and exhilaration bubbled in his stomach. Could his nightmare be true? You, Joe? You never said. Wow! Oh yes, I killed it with my sword. Umbres have existed for before the time of man. Joe went on to fill Adam with whispered tales and warnings passed down through generations. A sword? How do you know about this, Joe? Wanting to know the secret of Joe's knowledge. I have one. Here, I'll show you. Reaching for his pocket. Adam was shocked and puzzled by this, but waited with wonder on what his friend was about to do next. There you go. Joe slowly pulled out a thick, textured card, its edges curled with a picture of a shadowy monster on it. Nasty thing it is. Class 5E. Adam looked angrily at Joe. But that's a Dungeons & Dragons card. Yep, one of my oldest cards. I had to dig it out of the loft. Joe felt very proud of himself. He had used irrefutable logic. The mystery was solved by the art of deduction. Obviously, his friend, after inhaling some of his favorite weed while watching a scary movie, had fallen asleep and dreamt it all. He savored the victory, knowing his intellect had brought order to chaos, and stood there with a huge smile on his face. Really, Joe? Adam couldn't believe his friend. How could Joe be so uncaring, so flippant, knowing what it meant to him and how he was so involved in all this? Or was that the point? Was he too involved, and was it time to let it go? He looked at his friend, still admiring his prized possession. Well, thanks anyway, dude. Adam felt dejected and walked slowly back to the door of the burger bar and plunged himself back into the fray.
Adam had already decided to go back through the park on his way home. The setting sun cast long, distorted shadows as he ambled down the gravel path. It could have just been the cold, but a prickling sensation started crawling up his neck like a spider on an icy web. Adam had a feeling of an unseen presence just out of sight, like the fleeting whisper of motion in the corner of his eye, with the feeling of eyes boring into his back. He turned around. The figure of a man stood by a street lamp, who looked up, then walked away. Adam carried on. The sun now set. The once familiar path twisted and turned in the dark, taking him deeper into the heart of the park, where the shadows became thicker and the light died away. The darkness wasn't just an absence of light. It felt sentient, alive, pressing in on him, a living wall ready to swallow him. It seemed to tug at him, not with a physical force, but with an invitation to surrender to the comforting embrace of the unknown. But with a spark of defiance, Adam wouldn't be consumed by this suffocating darkness. Lilly's image made him stronger than its whispers, smarter than its tricks. Taking a deep breath, he squared his shoulders and met the unseen gaze head-on. Before him lay nothing but black, but talking to himself, he said, "Face me, demon." Not sure of what he was doing there, his voice surprisingly steady in the oppressive silence. "I know you're there." In the heart of the void, Adam stood alone, half expecting to stand there for hours, not getting any answer and going home feeling foolish. But then he sensed something he could not explain, a tingling on the hairs of his arm. The temperature dropped, and Adam braced himself for whatever would come next. "Go back, mortal," the now familiar voice boomed. Tendrils of dark mist seemed to wrap around his feet. "The girl is not for you. She will live in the eternal night with me. If you continue this path, she will be your undoing." Undaunted, Adam slowly stepped onward, the darkness now a suffocating blanket that pressed in on his chest, stealing his labored breath. His eyes strained, but they saw only a swirling abyss, mocking his need for sight. A primal instinct to flee, older than memory itself, clawed at his thoughts. Panic overwhelmed him, with a vision of the unseen danger and a lurking horror. In the suffocating blackness, Adam's sense of self began to unravel. "Fool, you have stepped over to my domain. You cannot escape now. You are trapped here to do my bidding, as she is," said the voice, and let out the sinister crystalline shriek that forced Adam to hold his ears. Time lost its meaning, minutes stretching into eternity. Something was now pulling him deeper into the darkness. Powerless to fight against it, he could do nothing but consign himself to his fate. "Run, Adam!" Out of the corner of his eye, he saw her, Lilly. He turned to face her, their eyes locking onto each other. Adam would never again forget Lily's face. It was burned into his soul. But as quickly as her image appeared, it was yanked from his sight, and she was gone. Once again he could feel the darkness pressing all around him. He thought he could see unseen eyes glinting in the darkness, smiling teeth bared, claws sharp, ready to devour. Not like the demon he had seen in his dreams, but something totally unnatural. From nowhere, Adam saw a figure with a lantern rushing towards him. Its form pulsed with an eerie luminescence, a spectral apparition that held its shape. It wore a black cape, the hood up, so Adam could only make an outline of a man. The lantern he was holding was lit with a black flame that gave warmth, and Adam felt the pressure of the darkness ease. "He is not for you, hombre. Let him go," said the shadowy figure, his voice laden with a thick Germanic accent. He moved in front of Adam and thrust the lantern deep into the void. His hood dropped to reveal an elderly man with a gray beard. Adam took a deep breath and clenched his fists. Unaware of the other man, he took one hesitant step at a time, pushing backwards against the darkness until he could begin to make out the shapes of the park. He turned and ran, not stopping until he stood under a streetlight by a bench and the sound of rustling leaves and swaying branches could be heard. Before him lay the dark shadows, which seemed to shrink, revealing the familiar contours all around him. Adam looked for the man with the lantern, but he was nowhere to be seen. He had simply vanished. He stared at his hands, which were shaking with cold and fear. His mind was trying to rationalize what had just happened. He looked at his watch. It was late. Keeping to the lights of the park, he started for home. As he walked, he kept glancing over his shoulder, half expecting to see the writhing entity again. Adam emerged from the park's velvety cloak and stepped into the city's embrace of welcoming neon. He hesitated once more, staring back at the path. He felt that he was changed in some way, as if reality itself had been moved sideways. Although the night was still penumbra, Adam felt for the first time his eyes had been opened. Amidst his fear, there was a spark of apprehension. Had he stumbled into something bigger than him, a hidden world of shadows and secrets?
The familiar creak from the door made Adam stop and smile. He thought that he really should oil that hinge. As he entered the living room, he said, "Ma, I won't," taking off his coat. As he stepped into the room, a wave of inviting heat washed over him from the crackling log in the fire. Warm shadows dancing all around the room. His mom sat in front of the hearth in her favorite cozy wingback chair, a blanket tucked under her legs and a warm glow on her cheeks. Adam looked at the familiar sight of a cluttered living room with its mismatched furniture and overflowing bookshelves and sat down to normality. "How was work?" asked his preoccupied mother, staring deep into the flames. "Sarah found herself a boyfriend, so she's even more intolerable to put up with," Adam said, rubbing his mother's arm. "Oh dear, I wonder how long that will last. She's nothing but trouble. You stay away from her, young man," his mother said, frowning. "I told you, Ma, she's not my type. You're going to have to put up with me a little bit longer," said Adam, smiling at his worried mother. The old woman relaxed and smiled back at Adam. Dinner's in the kitchen, and darling, could you do me a favor? I've lost my glasses. Could you look for them for me?" Waving her arm to the back of the room. "Yes, of course. Do you want to borrow mine?" said Adam, showing her his glasses. That made his mother laugh and said, "Don't be silly. You know I can't see with yours." Putting his glasses back on, Adam smiled. The image of his mom without her spectacles always brought a chuckle. Her vision was about as clear as a foggy window, and she would stumble around like a bumbling cartoon character without them. She relied heavily on her glasses, especially for her beloved reading. Adam checked the usual suspects, the coffee table, the bookshelf, even on the top of the fridge, finally finding the pair of spectacles behind the potted fern on the floor and presenting them to her. "Oh, well done," she clapped with glee, pulling him in for a hug. He had only found a pair of glasses, but he had brought a little spark of joy back into a day, a reminder that even the smallest gesture can make a big difference. He grabbed his chicken pie and chips and sat down with his mum next to the fire, talking of times gone by, when Granny Clennis used to rule the roost, even though she was completely blind. His mother would tell the story of Adam's grandmother only going out in the daytime, even though she would not know whether it was light or dark, and having a roaring fire even in the summer. Adam smiled and turned to his mother, noticing her eyes were closed, so he gently rubbed her hand and helped her into bed. Once in his bedroom, he looked at the Stratocaster sitting in the corner, straightened it, and studied its now battered contours, memories of his grandmother still fondly floating around his head. He went to his computer and typed in ombre. Loads of results came up, line after line. Ombre, the god of darkness, role-play character, class 5E. But then a few lines started to appear that were more interesting. Ombre, or the darkness, means shadows in Latin, and various cultures and religions throughout history have had shadow-related entities associated with negative aspects going as far back as the earliest civilizations. The more he read, the more that he realized that this ombre may have been around for a very long time. Unfortunately, there was no guidance on what to do if you met one. Adam decided that there was nothing more he could do that night. He left the side lamp on and snuggled deeper into his mustard duvet. He stared at the swirling patterns on his ceiling, each shadow morphing into the specter from his nightmare. Pressing his face into the pillow, Adam tried to smother the images with pressure. In the end, he decided to think about the upcoming weekend and the fun he would have with Joe, slowly falling asleep with a smile on his face.
Chapter 5. The Man Dressed in a Greyish Suit. Adam's eyes blinked awake. He was convinced that he'd only dozed for a moment, but the clock blared at him, telling him it was 9 a.m. He didn't have work that day, but had forgotten to turn it off. He felt disoriented and questioned his grip on reality for a moment. Then, dangling his legs over the side of the bed, he rubbed the sleep from his eyes. Once opened, he gazed upon the paper of the unfinished drawing, the portrait awaiting its completion. The image of Lilly's terrified expression burned into the back of his mind. So, with gritted determination, he once again pressed pencil to paper. He saw only her face. Her eyes, once pools of cold water, were now wide with a primal fear. He shaded the trembling curve of her lips, leaving them parted now in a scream. A tear slid down her cheek, a testament to her pain, but also to the resilience that shone in her eyes. He etched the tendrils of dark mist slithering around her. Adam worked feverishly, sweat beading on his forehead, blurring the vision before him, but serving only to heighten the urgency of his task. He had to capture it all, the chilling whisper of danger and the dark grip of terror that held her captive. As the final pencil stroke fell, the drawing shimmered and the air crackled with energy. Adam's eyes, sore from his feverish etching, thought he had stared too long as the pencil marks began to shimmer. He watched in disbelief as the drawn figure stirred. He dropped the glowing paper to the floor. Lily's eyes now flickered in the sketch.
Her hand now pushed against the barrier of the paper, and Adam stepped back as she tore out of the prison, her form solidifying in the room. Her skin, once the texture of paper, was now warm and smooth, her naked body curled up on the floor like a newborn baby. She gasped, a soft sound that shattered the silence. Lilly held out her trembling hand, as if searching for something in the dark. She found Adam's fingers, her touch sending a jolt of electric light through his arm. "Adam, is that you? I can't see anything. I'm blind." Lily's naked body was damp from an unseen mist. Her limbs, heavy as leaden weights, refused to obey her, which seemed to pin her to the floor like an invisible force that was slowly dissipating. Adam grabbed the blanket from the bed and threw it over Lily's shivering body. Adam, having a million questions, blurted out, "Who are you?" "You still don't know?" Lilly pushed herself up, her limbs creaking like frozen cogs. Her legs, weak but willing, carried her onto the unseen bed, where she hugged the pillow as if it was a life buoy on the ocean. Adam realized that she needed some time to recover from her ordeal. "Would you like some water?" Lilly just nodded, face down, her mind the last thing to be pulled from the swirling chaos of the dark dimension. Adam, in a daze of disbelief at what had just happened, closed the door to his bedroom and wandered to the kitchen, adrenaline coursing through his veins, his mind a jumbled mess of questions. He stood facing the kitchen cupboards. How in the real world was this possible? He had to know. He had to step into the unknown and unravel the mystery of the girl with stardust eyes who may hold the secrets of everything. He didn't know how long he had stood there before he snapped out of his trance, but he suddenly remembered the water and made his way back to his bedroom. As he stepped through the door, Adam felt his heart hammering against his ribs, staring at the sleeping girl sprawled across his bed. Her skin the color of moonlight, and her hair a mesmerizing tangle of midnight blue strands. He yearned to reach out, to brush away a stray strand of hair that tickled her porcelain cheek, but a sense of awe held him back. This wasn't just any girl. She was an enigma, a whisper of something extraordinary. As he watched, her chest rose and fell with shallow breaths, her brow furrowed in a mixture of pain and determination. He decided to let her sleep, so he put the water down and backed away to the door. In the living room was his mother in her usual place by a new fire that was crackling away merrily. She was reading one of her favorite historical books. Peering over the top of her glasses, she said, "Morning, darling. How was your night? Do you want some breakfast?" "Oh, no thanks, Mom." A new set of problems started going through his head. Should he tell his mom about Lilly and what happened, or say nothing? Saying nothing could cause even more problems, but after what seemed like several minutes, Adam decided on the latter, as the truth was too unbelievable. "I think I'll go and tidy my room, Mom." Adam kissed her on the head and headed to his bedroom. Lilly stretched slowly as if waking from a long sleep, her movements graceful like a willow swaying in the breeze. A soft sigh escaped her lips as she sat up, running a hand through her hair and taking in the unfamiliar surroundings with a slow smile. The noise of the door opening alerted Adam to his presence. She looked at a smiling Adam, her face crumpled, and a sob escaped her lips. Tears welled over her eyes, spilling like an overflowing dam, cascading down her cheeks like tidal waves. Adam's heart lurched. All thoughts of portals and otherworldly journeys vanished, replaced by a surge of concern. He rushed to her side, his hand hovering awkwardly in the air, unsure of where to land. "What's wrong?" he asked. Lilly shook her head, unable to speak through the torrent of tears. She suddenly lurched at Adam, wrapping her arms tightly around him. Her shoulders trembled, and her breath hitched with each sob. Adam felt helpless, her eyes filled with a vulnerability that pierced his heart. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, her sobs subsided, leaving behind shaky breaths and tear-streaked cheeks. Lilly finally looked at him and leaned closer. Adam's heart raced, his breath caught in his throat, and before he could react, Lily's lips rushed to meet his in a soft, tentative kiss. This wasn't any kiss. This was the kiss that could never be bettered nor forgotten. It was soft, sweet, and filled with the unspoken promise of something more. But before they could kiss again—
"Knock, knock. Are you in there, darling? There's someone at the door for you," his mother whispered. Adam turned his head towards the door with a look of panic, as if he had suddenly become an adulterer and the husband was outside the door. He placed his finger over Lily's lips. "I'll go and see who it is." Adam looked at the beautiful girl's face. He yearned to kiss her again instead of having to leave. She just smiled, a slight sadness in her eyes. Adam left, closing the door quickly behind him so that his mother could not see into the room. "It's your friend from work. He's asking if you are all right. You haven't gotten into any trouble, have you, young man?" The elderly lady's face looked cross. "No, Ma, it's just Joe being a dick." Adam rushed to the front door, wondering what Joe really wanted. Opening the door, he pushed Joe back so that he could close the door behind him. "Hi, bro. Man, it's good to see you. I thought you would do something stupid," said Joe, giving Adam a big hug. Receiving the hug from his friend melted any frustration he had towards him. At that moment, Adam decided to tell his friend the truth. "She's here, Joe," he blurted out, and with a very puzzled look on his friend's face, he told Joe the story of how Lilly had appeared in his bedroom. Not believing a word his friend had said, Joe said, "I'm worried about you, man. So you now have an imaginary girlfriend in your bedroom?" And before Adam to reply, "Funny that, 'cause so have I. Maybe we could go out on a foursome some night." Looking at Joe with disdain, Adam said, "She's real, Joe. Look, don't say anything to Mom, as it would freak her out, but I'll take you to my room and you can meet her." Joe's eyebrows raised. This he had to see. They hurried past Adam's mom. "Me and Joe are just going to play on the Xbox, Mom," said Adam. "Oh, okay, dear. Do you want some coffee?" she asked. No, we're fine, thanks," said Adam, pulling Joe's arm. "Hi, Mrs. J," said Joe, as he was dragged past her. Adam opened the door, and the two boys went straight into his bedroom. The room was empty. "Hi, Lily," said Joe sarcastically, starting to shake his hand in the air as if an invisible hand was shaking back. "But she was just here," Adam said, doubt coming into his head like a cold, heavy fog, clinging to every thought. "Oh, boy, you are sicker than I thought," Joe said. "Look, Adam, I'm saying this as a friend, but you need to see a doc." His concern was only half what it should be, as the other part of his mind was dealing with not seeing this beautiful girl that Adam had talked about. After looking around for a moment and knowing that Adam needed help, he realized he had to be firm with him. "If you don't see a doctor, I'm going to tell your mother." Putting his nose in the air, Joe opened the door, thinking he had been very good at reprimanding his friend, said, "I'm going now. Good day, sir," and closed the door behind him. She must have gone down the fire escape when she heard Joe's voice, thought Adam, still not convincing himself. He sat on the bed. A symphony of doubts played in his head, a chaotic orchestra of insecurities. He felt his shoulders sink, and just as despair threatened to engulf him, the door flew open. It was Joe, startling Adam from his daze, standing in the doorway like he was Superman without the cape, chest puffed out, with his hands on his hips. "Adam, what kind of friend would I be if I left you here with Lily when you must move on? Forget her, my friend. She was no good for you. Grab your coat, buddy boy. We are going to Duffy's bar to have a drink or two. Beer sorts all problems." Joe wouldn't take no for an answer. Pushing Adam out the door, Joe shouted, "We're just going out for a while, Mrs. J," and closed the front door. Adam's confused mother just waved and said, "Bye." Not a cloud marred the clear blue sky, and a gentle cold breeze rustled the leaves outside the house as they weaved through the crowd of people, the chatter of passers-by, honking of car horns, and a distant siren, all added to the city's frenetic energy. They turned the corner, and there stood their local drinking establishment, Duffy's Bar. Joe decided that they should sit outside so the sun could warm their faces. They found a table and ordered a beer each. "This is more like it," said Joe, putting his hands on the back of his head and trying to sink back on the uncomfortable metal chair. "She could have gone back to the house and I'm not there," cried Adam, his mind sifting through all his jumbled thoughts. He was desperately trying to understand what was causing his mental disarray. His friend tried to console him. "If she does come back, she'll be there waiting for you," said Joe, trying to do a bad impersonation of a smile. But on hearing that, Adam did perk up, realizing that Joe was most probably right. "And if she doesn't, it's her loss, not yours. There are plenty more fish in the sea, as they say. Joe, who never had a proper girlfriend in his life, said, "Look at this place, man. It's banging with birds at night, and if there's a good-looking one, I'll let you have first dibs." Joe's voice started to drift into the background as Adam stared across the road. On the other side of the pavement, people were rushing up and down. A young delivery cyclist darted between pedestrians, a stack of takeaway pizza boxes balanced precariously on his handlebars. A beggar was lying on an old piece of carpet, holding out an old flat cap. His face, a road map of wrinkles carved by years of sun and hardship, was partially obscured by a mess of untamed white hair. Then Adam saw him, standing behind the beggar, a man dressed in a smart grayish suit, which made him stand out from the crowd. His hair was flecked with a surprising amount of gray, the way he furrowed his spectacled brow for concentration, a furrow that deepened at the bridge of his nose. It was all so familiar, yet the details remained frustratingly out of reach. Adam strained, trying to pull a name, a memory from the cobwebs of his mind. Had they gone to school together? Did he used to live on the same street? Their eyes met across the road, a jolt passing between them, the man's surprise mirrored only by Adam's own. Then the man quickly looked away. The jolt placed the memory of the man firmly in Adam's head. The man was wearing glasses now, and he noticed that he had white hair under his gray tweed trilby, but he was pretty sure it was the man with the lantern who saved him from the darkness the 2 nights before. Adam got up to rush across the road. "And I promise you, you can have any girl that I don't want. Hell, I'll even help you out. Hey, where you going?" said Joe, surprised to see his friend crossing the road. Adam didn't answer. His gaze was firmly fixed on the gray-haired man. Cars beeped their horns as they were forced to stop as Adam zigzagged across the busy street. The man stood his ground when Adam stopped in front of him. "You're the man from the other night who saved me from the darkness, aren't you?" Adam said, getting his breath back. "Yes, I am. I'm sorry if I startled you in such a manner," the man said with his Germanic accent. There was an air of sophistication about him that his demeanor was trying to subterfuge. "We can't really talk here, too many people. Here's my card. Come and see me at 5 p.m. tonight, and I'll answer all of your questions. The address is on the card." The man then tipped his hat and disappeared into the crowd. Stunned, Adam crossed back over the road, not concentrating on the traffic as much as he should, to where Joe was still sitting, looking aghast at what Adam had just done. Adam stood at the table and stared at the card. It read, "Professor Gustav Immerose, Director of Antiquated Artifacts at the York Museum." Overwhelmed by the encounter, Adam realized he had built his life on a foundation of sand. The revelation of what had happened in the last couple of days was like the tide that was rushing in, threatening to crumble everything he thought to be true. The blood drained from his face. The confusion was plain to see. Turning to Joe, he said, "You saw him, didn't you, Joe?" Joe looked across the road to a now empty pavement, opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "Didn't you?" Joe replied. I saw you cross the road to talk to someone." "A man with a trilby hat," Adam said insistently. "Yeah, I think so," Joe replied, unsure of the questioning. So it was all true. A wave of emotions washed over Adam, spinning around and around in his head until nothing. His head was full, and it stopped him from creating any more thoughts. Adam sat down with a blank expression on his face. "Look, buddy, I'm getting worried about you. You're behaving very strangely at the moment. First the imaginary girl, and now talking to strange men. I think you've been working too hard. Maybe you should take a couple of days off." "Lilly, she could be looking for me back at the house." "Look, Joe, I've got to go," Adam said, getting up and starting to run towards home. "Sure, just leave me here." Then Joe realized, "Hey, what about the bill?" But it was too late. He was talking to himself. Adam ran down the street, dodging businessmen walking briskly with their briefcases and tourists with their cameras snapping pictures of everything and nothing, weaving through them with the agility of Superman dodging bullets until he reached his door.
Chapter 6. Escape to the Light. Adam was just about to turn the key when the door opened with his mother standing there, looking straight at him. She was wearing a worn cardigan which she clutched to keep warm. Her eyes held a hint of concern and anticipation. "Hi, Mom. Is everything okay?"
said Adam with a panicked look on his face, wondering if something bad had happened. "There's some strange girl in the living room waiting for you. She looks worried. You haven't done anything you shouldn't have you?" said his mother, thinking that Adam had some terrible news he was just about to release on her. "Yuck! No, Ma, really?" Adam pulled a repugnant face and gently pushed his frail mother to one side, rushing to see who it was. In his mind, he hoped it was Lilly, but needed a visual confirmation of her existence. As he entered the room, he turned to see a girl with her back to him, but that hair, dark as night with bluish tinges that seemed to sparkle. He knew it was Lilly standing there. She was wearing one of his jumpers, jogging shorts, and a pair of his trainers that were at least 2 sizes too big. Adam thought she must be freezing. Lilly looked anxious but also delighted to see him. His anxiety melted away by just being in the same space as her, filling him with emotions he never felt before. Seeing him, her face lit up with a smile, a radiance that seemed to warm the room. "You can see," said Adam, smiling back. "It was only temporary until I got used to the light again," Lilly said, looking into his eyes. She got up to hug Adam, but pulled away at the last minute, seeing his mother standing by the door. Adam turned to look at his mother. Her usual gentle demeanor had gone, her mouth revealing a slight grimace and anger in her eyes. "Mom, this is Lilly, my friend," said Adam, looking straight at Lilly for confirmation. She smiled back at him, nodding with a worried agreement. "Will your lady friend be staying for dinner, Adam?" said the old lady with a contemptible look on her face, still not convinced that Adam was telling her the truth. Adam looked at Lilly. "That would be lovely, Mum, thanks." It had crossed Adam's mind that Lilly may have not eaten and was eager to keep his mother happy, as the air was thick with the lingering scent of an argument. "Not for me, thank you," Lilly blurted out suddenly. "I must watch my weight," tapping her belly. "Oh, okay. Sorry, Mum. Maybe then, we're fine. We'll eat later, but thanks anyway," Adam said sheepishly, bracing himself for his mother's wrath. Sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words, and his mother's face was a picture. She looked at Lilly, then looked at Adam. The storm in her eyes was raging as she turned and walked away, but then stopped and spoke. "I'll talk to you later, young man." Why hadn't Adam mentioned Lilly before? Couldn't he see the girl was no good for him? As his mother closed the door, her footsteps echoed like distant thunder across the wooden floor. Adam took Lilly by the hand to his room. He wanted to ask Lilly so many questions, but in the end all he could say was, "Hi." Lilly smiled and said hi back, looking deep into his eyes, once again a spark igniting between them. She leaned closer, ready for a passionate embrace. Adam's heart was ready to be lost to the moment, but his head had a sudden realization that something was amiss. He took a deep breath and spoke. Breaking away from her arms, Adam said, "I'm really sorry, but I can't remember you," in a sympathetic but bewildered manner, sitting down on the bed and holding her hand, a flicker of a smile passing across his face. "You still don't know me?" Lilly gently removed her hand. "I thought something might have sparked your memory by now," she said with a sad look slowly descending upon her face. "It's okay. I might not remember you, but there's something about you that feels incredibly familiar, and I have met you in my dreams," Adam said, smiling and remembering only her beauty and none of the other things that had happened. With a deep breath and once again grabbing Adam's hand, Lilly made eye contact. "Maybe this will help your memory, darling. We met at Duffy's bar. I was there with my father, who was drunk as usual. He got up to go to the toilet, slipped and fell off his stool. You must have been walking past and managed to catch him before he hit his head on the floor. I didn't know anyone there, and all my father's friends were as drunk as he was, so you offered to take me and my father home. I live on the south side of the river, so we took a cab and talked on the way. There was something about you. You were kind and gentle, yet strong and dependable, things that were so sorely lacking in my life." Lilly smiled at Adam and started playing with his hair.
You put my father on the couch and quietly headed back to the door where I was standing. I couldn't help myself. I didn't know if I would see you again, so I kissed you. I think it took you by surprise, and you looked a little shocked, your cheeks going a bright red." Lilly started pushing Adam's hair away from his forehead to prove her point. "You started mumbling that you were beautiful, grabbed me, and kissed me back. I could feel your heart pounding in your chest. I wrapped my arms around your neck, pulling you closer. Your hands traced the curve of my back, sending shivers down my spine. I knew I wanted you forever. The cab was waiting outside, so you had to go, but we agreed to meet up on Saturday." Adam couldn't remember any of it, but he didn't care. Pushing Lilly backwards onto the couch, he gently held her face. Their lips touched softly at first, a tentative exploration, but quickly the kiss deepened. The world seemed to fade away as the kiss filled with passion, tenderness, and a deep sense of connection. "Knock, knock!" "Sorry to bother you, Adam, but your friend is at the door again," his mother said from the other side of the door. "Jesus," said Adam under his breath. "Thanks, Mom." He pulled away from Lily's embrace, once again not happy with his mother's interference. Adam looked at Lilly and said, "Stay here, please do not go anywhere." Lilly smiled, "I promise," and blew him a kiss as he left. His mother had already let Joe into the living room. He was sweaty and panting, and his face looked all flushed. With a deep breath, Joe straightened himself up and said, "Hi, buddy, are you okay? Look, I'll help you look for this girl, but if we can't find her, you have to promise me you'll forget all about her and just be normal," his face pleading with his friend. With great excitement, Adam said, "She's here, Joe," pulling him into the bedroom. "Buddy, she's not there. She's in your mind," said Joe, believing Adam was having a mental breakdown. "You need help. This is not normal. You must try to forget this figment of your imagination and get a real girl." Joe stopped suddenly. Sitting on the bed was indeed a young lady, her large eyes the color of the night sky, dark hair that cascaded down her shoulders in loose waves, and pale ebony skin that seemed to glow with a subtle sheen. Joe started to have a mental breakdown of his own. "Oh my God, you are real. But, Joe mumbled and sat down. "How?" "Hi," said Lilly, her smile warm and friendly. "I'm Lilly, Adam's girlfriend." Adam's ears pricked up. "Yes, he told me all about you," said Joe in a derogatory way, defending his friend. "What are you, some kind of she-demon, come to suck his brains out?" "Joe, don't be rude," snapped Adam, shocked by what came out of Joe's mouth. "Adam, have you been pulling Joe's leg with some of your wild stories? I'm sorry, Joe, but Adam was trying to find a way to tell you about me. He was worried how you would take it," Lilly said, reassuring Joe. If Adam's jaw was capable of falling on the floor, it would. Joe's face looked like it had been hit by a sledgehammer, but slowly changed to rage once he realized who was holding it. How could someone he had considered a brother be so deceitful, do something so cruel? He could have told him the truth. He had always been there for his friend, offering support and advice. He didn't need to lie to him, and in return, he had been mocking him behind his back. "Really, pal, you're sicker than I thought. You gave me this cock and bull story so I would think you were mentally ill, just so you could see Lilly behind my back, didn't you?" Joe ranted like a jilted girlfriend. No, Joe." But it was too late. His friend had stormed out of the room. Turning to Lilly, bewildered, Adam said, "Why?" Adam felt a wave of disappointment wash over him. Why would Lilly hurt him and Joe like that? There seemed to be no point. Lilly grabbed Adam's hand once again and said, "I know that was hard for both of you, but what would be easier for us, to tell him the truth about what has happened in the last 24 hours, or tell a little lie to save him the worry? I'm not too sure what has happened myself, and he would ask questions that I might not be able to answer." "He's my friend, Lilly, and now he thinks I've been lying to him," Adam realized. There really wasn't any other way to do it. Joe did have a habit of taking over everything Adam did, and he would be okay in a couple of days, hopefully.
"So, what the hell has happened?" he said, still not raising his voice, but trying to comprehend the situation.
Lilly took a deep breath and began her story. Last Saturday, I went to Duffy's bar as we had agreed to meet up for a meal, and I was really looking forward to seeing you again. Adam had a puzzled look on his face. I got there at the agreed time, 7:30 p.m. You hadn't got there yet, so I sat down at a table and waited. An hour passed, and there was no sign of you. The waiter came up to me and asked if I still wanted the table. I burst into tears and ran out of the bar. "I'm sorry, Lilly, I can't remember any of this," said Adam, holding Lily's hand. "It's okay, my love, I forgive you," she said, and carried on with her story. "I wasn't thinking straight and walked into the park. It was dark, and the deeper I went in, the more the air grew colder. A sudden gust of wind whipped through the trees, sending leaves swirling around me. I quickened my pace. Then I heard it, a faint, mournful howl echoing through the trees. It was a sound that sent shivers down my spine, an unholy noise I will never forget. The realization of the situation dawned on me. I looked around for the nearest exit, not knowing where I was. In the corner of my eye, I could see a dark shape was forming. It was faint at first, just a smudge against the dark. I froze in fear, my legs stubbornly rooted to the ground. As I watched, this swirling haze grew larger, more distinct. I tried to scream, to call out for help, but no sound would come. Its eyes, two glowing red orbs, seemed to pierce through the darkness, fixated on me. Slowly it emerged from the shadows, materializing into a tall man dressed in impeccable evening wear, a high collar and a black cloak with a red silk lining. I swear he looked like Christopher Lee. His eyes were mesmerizing. I couldn't move, as I had been frozen. He moved with a fluid grace, faster than a heartbeat, and in an instant he towered over me, his hands wrapped around my neck. He was so incredibly strong. He pulled me into his cloak, and he felt the brush of cold lips against my neck as his teeth dug into me. I let out a scream. It wasn't a pain I felt, more like a shock. This creature seemed to feed on my fear, growing stronger with each passing moment. No matter what I did, I could not break free of his primeval embrace. I heard him say, "You are mine now. You have passed over to the darkness. You will never escape, and I will do with you as I will," and dragged me deeper into the black void. Looking through the dim shadows, I could see the park slowly fading away. I just managed to see a figure walking in the park. It was you. I called your name. You looked around, but ran off, leaving me to my fate. "I'm so sorry," said Adam. "I didn't know. It was more of a wailing, and I didn't know your voice." Lilly continued. "Slowly all the light faded away. In the darkness there is no light, only shades of black. The creature threw me to the ground. Its shape slowly changed from a man to a form I no longer recognized. I could only make out its inhuman silhouette. The details of its body slowly subsided as it moved, its limbs no longer visible, and its shape a twisted, unnatural starfish shape, with flashes of static electricity appearing and disappearing. It just stood there, swaying. My heart was pounding so hard, and my mind full of panic. I thought it was just the fear in me that was making me feel sick, but the longer it stood there, the more I felt my strength getting weaker. Finally, I screamed out, "What do you want from me?" I never saw if the creature's mouth moved, but its answer was one word, "You." I broke down and whimpered, "I want to go home," my eyes brimming with tears. The entity moved closer to me, with what I imagined was its face, inches from mine. I could see its red glowing eyes, the only color in the void, the shadows of a grinning mouth, and the silhouettes of sharp teeth that never seemed to move. From the darkness I heard its hideous voice say, "You have passed over from your plane of existence, child. You have left all your worldly things behind. There is no way back for you. You are lost." I didn't realize what it meant at first, but I reached down for my handbag, but it had gone.
All I could feel was my skin. The darkness had made it slightly clammy. After moving all around, it stood there, just hovering over me. I dared not move, thinking it was waiting for me to run away so it could pounce on me like a cat with a mouse. Eventually, after what seemed hours, the shadowy creature started to move away from me. It never turned its back to me. Well, I don't think so, until I couldn't make out its outline. Not knowing which way I had come from, I made it to my feet and began to run in the opposite direction from the creature. My heavy breathing was the only thing breaking the eerie silence. All I could see was black. My legs ached, and I sat down. My tears had now dried up. I was adrift on a sea of despair, unable to see a glimmer of hope, unable to know how I would ever find my way back. But then I saw you again. You were different. Before you were solid, physically standing next to me. But now it was as if you were a ghostly specter, surrounded by thick fog. I called out your name, begging for help, my voice echoing through the misty air. But just as I reached out for you, a cold, invisible hand clamped down on my arm. I screamed as my body was forcibly jolted back. This shimmering entity cast no shadow as it shouted at you, and the light that was your image faded and died, leaving me in complete darkness. A chill ran down my spine as I felt its presence loom over me. The air grew heavy, thick with an impressive weight. I tried to move, but my body seemed frozen in place. Once again, it stood there, moving but not moving, its form shifting and changing, its darkness temporarily growing brighter. I felt a strange tingling sensation in my limbs, a pain that slowly got stronger, and my muscles became weaker and weaker. A wave of exhaustion washed over me, and I fell unconscious.
I don't know how long I was out, but when I came to, I was alone. Eventually my eyes opened, and I thought I saw, off in the distance, a glimpse of a faint light. With a deep breath, I got up and ran towards it. As I got closer, the light looked gray to me. I could make out shapes. With a new vigor, I quickened my step. I could make out the shape of a man wandering around as if he was lost. I carried on towards him, thinking this was my way out, but as I approached, I heard someone call out to him. He turned his head and walked away, and as he did, the light disappeared and darkness surrounded me once again. Shock and anger washed over me. I couldn't see anything. I stumbled on blindly until I couldn't get the air into my burning lungs quickly enough. The view was always the same, nothing. I collapsed, lying there for hours, until coming out of the darkness was a faint flicker of a shadow. I watched as the figure grew closer, until I was able to make out the monstrous shimmer. Standing over me, I felt this relentless foe was invading my body, slowly eroding my strength. A surge of energy drained from me once more. It was a slow, numbing sensation, as if a thing had pulled a plug and let the electricity flow out of my body. My body ached, and I felt I was changing into something, but didn't know what. I shouted at it. I refused to die here. There must be a way to escape this God-forsaken place. The creature cackled. Only a few have escaped here. In the olden days of wizards and witches, if an enlightened one could create an image of someone who is stuck in the darkness, they might, just might, be able to escape to the other world. But I have been watching you through the shadows. No one like that will miss you. A vaporous hand touched my face, and it said, "You are mine." The madness of the situation started to overwhelm me. I stared blankly into emptiness, helpless to stop what was to befall me. But as I stared, a faint flicker of light slowly grew until a figure emerged from the mist, your facial features slowly coming into focus. I reached out to you to help me, but was confused when you said you didn't know me. Shocked by your response and desperate for salvation, I shouted to you to draw me and hoped that you understood or would at least be intrigued enough to try it.
You looked into my eyes, and I felt our connection, just as the creature lunged, its black contours reaching out towards me, and I lost consciousness once again. I don't know how long I was out. I had no way of judging time. I shivered, lack of food, being naked, and that creature sapping me of my strength caused disorientation and confusion. Once again I saw the creature slowly approaching, its dark form looming over me, its tendrils reaching out to take the last of my strength. But instead of having a feeling of dread, exhausted and defeated, I finally gave up. I felt a sense of calm descend upon me. I closed my eyes, my mind drifting to a peaceful meadow. I could feel the gentle breeze on my face and bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun, just lying there with you in my arms, waiting for the inevitable, ready to embrace the unknown that awaited me. But it never came. I opened my eyes to see that the creature was angry, like a powerful vortex of wind, a swirling maelstrom all around me. A protective mist seemed to form around me, repelling the creature's touch. The demon recoiled, its eyes filled with confusion and rage. It tried again and again, but its attacks were repelled, as if bouncing off the invisible barrier. The creature let out a frustrated growl, its form flickering and fading. It retreated into the shadows. I raised myself to my feet. My body ached. My knees felt weak. I stumbled on for a few feet before collapsing again. I don't know how long he was gone, but when he returned, he wasn't alone. This time, 2 more bulbous shapes came with it, one smaller and the other quite a bit larger. They surrounded me, their tentacle-like arms probing my body. I finally gave in to the horror and released my fear in the form of a terrified scream. They ignored it, desperately trying to penetrate the mist that now surrounded me. Without seeing any signs of their emotions, I could feel their anger and frustration. After a while of menacingly surrounding me, they slowly faded into the darkness, and I was alone. The darkness was absolute. If my eyes were open or closed, I wouldn't know it. I was losing my grip on reality, my mind unraveling to the madness of this terrifying world. The silence was broken by the sound of your voice. You were talking to the dark entity. I raced towards your light. The creature was busy talking with you and didn't see me move past him. Our eyes met, as if I was looking into your soul. I felt a wave of emotion wash over me, the feeling of understanding, of connection. It was as if we were sharing a silent conversation that transcended words. Adam looked at Lilly. I felt it too. All I knew was you are the most beautiful girl I have ever known, and you touched my soul. He reached over to her, looked into her eyes, and leaned in and kissed her. It was a gentle, lingering, passionate kiss that made Adam's toes tingle. After the kiss, Lilly seemed more relaxed and carried on with her story. The creature saw me talking to you, and with one swipe of his arm I was thrown onto the dark floor. As I looked down, it seemed to be a lighter shade of black, and I watched as the floor started to become visible to me. I looked up to see a hooded man holding a lantern. I saw him, said Adam, and I could see that demon. All I could see were the shadows all around it. The creature was like a mirror, sucking any warmth that came near it. But I saw it clearly, horns and hooves. Maybe my eyes were blinded by the light that surrounded you. All I know is it cowered away from the lantern when the hooded figure thrust it towards the creature. But once the lantern was gone, it looked my way, its movements jerky and agitated as it disappeared into the darkness. And once again, I was alone. I lost track of time, existing in a perpetual darkness, a void filled with emptiness and hopelessness. I wondered if I would ever escape the obscurity that held me captive. I began to accept the inevitable. If death was to take me, let it be quick. But a flicker of defiance ignited within me when I thought of my love for you, and I refused to surrender, to let my spirit be broken.
From the dark void, a light appeared once again, but this time it was different. This was a luminous puddle, ripples on a window into a room, and I saw your face staring back at me. My spirit lifted, but only for a moment. From the right of the window, I saw the creature again, its form seeming to multiply as it approached. I could see there was hundreds of them all coming towards me. If they reached me, I feared this time they would finish me. I pushed against the square light and it gave in, as if I was pushing against a plastic sheet. I pushed harder and the barrier ripped. I managed to push my hands through into the light. The creatures were on me, reaching out to grab me, but I dived through the window, just as if I was being ejected from a slimy orifice, and emerged from the darkness onto your floor.
Chapter 8. A Sentinel of the Past. "You are safe now, darling," said Adam, holding Lily in his arms. "You are never leaving me again," and kissed her. Lily's hands tangled in his hair, pulling him even closer. Time had no meaning to the young couple, lost in the intoxicating sensation of their passionate embrace. Adam realized that Lily was the one. He could feel his heart opening up for hers. The two lovers ran their arms all over each other. Lips were constantly locked in an eternal embrace. The feelings Adam felt were nothing he had felt before. Was this what life was truly about? Adam suddenly pulled away. "What's the time?" He looked down at his clock by his bed. 4:30 p.m. "Shit, I've got to go." "What? Where?" said Lily, who was taken by surprise and worry. I have to see someone," Adam mumbled. He thought it best that he saw the professor on his own, as he knew nothing about him. "Don't worry, my love, I won't be long, but it's important. Do you want to go back to your father's?" said Adam sheepishly. "It will be dark by the time I get home, and I'm sure those creatures are trying to find me." She started to cry once again, her imagination conjuring up terrifying scenarios. Her dread was too real, too painful. "Please don't leave me." Her eyes were now clouded with dread and fear. "Believe me, I don't want to, but this is important to both of us," Adam said, gently touching her cheek. "Look, you can stay here and wait if you want. I promise I won't be long. I'll tell Mum you are staying." Lily's eyes looked up with excitement and hugged him ever tighter. Adam got up from the bed, holding Lily's hand as long as possible as he pulled away. He felt torn that he was once again leaving Lily, but he knew that he had to get to the bottom of whatever was going on, and so, with a heavy heart and with one last look at Lily, Adam, without turning back, walked away from his love, hoping it wasn't the last time he looked into her eyes. From the moment her son was born, his mother had wrapped Adam in a cocoon of love and security. As he grew older, that protective instinct only intensified. Adam was a sensitive soul, easily hurt by words and actions. She watched as he navigated the complexities of adolescence and opened his heart to the world. And so, when this beautiful girl walked into his life, her primal urge to protect him was in full swing. She knew something Adam didn't, but how to let him down gently without destroying what happiness he had just found was going to take tact and patience. So, when Adam came running into the room, his mother, who was sitting in the usual place by the fire, cleared her throat and uttered, "Just a minute, young man." Yes, Ma?" said Adam, remembering he had to tell his mother something. He quickly blurted out, "Is it okay if Lily stays tonight?" Waiting for her chance to confront Adam and ignoring his words, his mother pounced. "So, where did you meet this young lady, darling?" Repeating what Lily had said early to him, he said, "I met her in Duffy's bar. She had come to pick up her dad," he said, looking at his watch. "Look, she's really lovely. I really like her, Ma," knowing when he was just about to get a grilling. His mother, who knew she would have to tread lightly, said, "That's nice, dear. How long have you known her?" Adam smiled, realizing where the conversation was going, and didn't have the time to talk, said, "Mother, I promise I won't rush into anything." The old lady smiled back, knowing she had done as much as she could to protect her son's heart, for now. "Okay, but you are on the sofa." Adam kissed his mother on the head and said, "Thanks." As he stepped out of the still noisy door, his breath formed a visible cloud in the air, a stark reminder of the sense of foreboding. A sudden gust of wind sent a chill down his spine as he ran to the bus stop. He looked around. The sun was setting in the sky, and dark shadows were already starting to appear. The bus wasn't much warmer. Bitterly cold, he curled up to keep warm. As Adam disembarked, he stopped outside the York Museum and admired the view. Standing as a sentinel of the past, the grand old building had witnessed the centuries unfold. Its weather-beaten facade, adorned with intricate carvings and gargoyles, hinted at the secrets that lay within. His eyes were staring everywhere when he approached the reception desk. "Hi, could you tell me where I could find Professor Gustave Immerose, please?" "Name," said a small elderly man in a rather abrupt manner, who didn't look up to see who it was but waited for an answer. "Sorry, you want my name?" Adam said, looking puzzled. Yes, name," shouted the concierge at the desk. Adam looked at this rude little man. He wore the museum's coat and cap, had a large mustache, and looked like he was having a bad day. "It's Adam Jones," Adam replied, wondering what the man wanted with his name. "Up the stairs, past the Roman gallery, left at Hermes, down the corridor, up the spiral stairs, along the storage loft, watch the pots on the floor, and it's the door on the right," the man instructed, still not looking up. Adam wandered through the museum. In the Roman room, marble statues of emperors and warriors stood tall, their expressions etched with power and authority. After going past what he thought was the statue of Hermes, he found himself by a small spiral staircase blocked by a red braided cord with a brass hook on it. He ducked down under the rope and climbed the winding stairs to a large corridor with a leaning ceiling. The path was dimly lit. Shadows seemed to be following him as he carefully edged his way past old and antique objects scattered all over the floor. Not looking back, he reached the door and knocked twice.
"Come in," shouted a muffled voice. As Adam entered, a gust of stale air and dust billowed out. Amidst the cobwebs, a bare bulb hung from the ceiling, casting long, dancing shadows across the cluttered floor, full of forgotten artifacts, sculptures, and paintings. "Over here!" cried the voice. Popping up from below a desk stood the man he had seen that morning. Wearing a white dust coat and holding a small statue of a half-naked man, he seemed to be looking for something. Adam looked at him, trying to find something to say, but after an awkward silence, the man looked up, and in a sinister voice he said, "I see, Mr. Jones, by the expression on your face, that you are looking for answers to your encounter last night. Well, I may as well start at the beginning. That evil creature you encountered comes from the darkness. The darkness can only be described as another plane of existence where hell itself resides. I could go into detail and explain that our universe ripped into theirs a long time ago, allowing portals to bridge the two worlds, but I don't think you are ready for that." The professor started to look for something among the clutter on the rows of workspaces around him. Adam, looking around, noticed a familiar lantern on the desk and his cape hanging in the corner. "You have seen something that not many people have lived to see, and no doubt you will never forget." A barrage of questions formed in Adam's head. "Could that creature get to me again, Professor?" said Adam, worried about what he was being told. "Well, that depends," the professor said flippantly, walking over to an old blackboard. "Here's our universe," drawing a circle, "and here is theirs," drawing another circle next to the first. "Anything that has light is our universe, and anything that is dark is, well, you get the picture. These lines can only overlap, and when the shadows are the same place in both worlds," drawing lines all over the chalkboard, "and these ley lines only overlap when the darkness is at its strongest. That is when you can slip into the other world and slip out again, or should I say, that's when evil is unleashed on this world." "But surely more people would know about this,"
Adam butted in, trying to understand what the professor was trying to say. The history of the darkness goes back before the time of man. In the beginning, the human race was used as cattle by the umbrae. That's what I call the creatures from the darkness. They found that fear and a human's life force was like ambrose to them. It wasn't until the discovery of fire could early man fend off these attacks. But stories of these evil creatures have been told in every civilization ever since. In the past, humans knew how to deal with these creatures. Unfortunately, that knowledge has been forgotten by all but a few. Did you know most ancient monuments and churches were built on laylines? Humans believed they could hold them there. Otherwise, the umbrae would be a lot more of a problem than they are. But I've seen one. You were there. Does this mean I can't enter any dark areas or shadows again? Adam's voice trembled at the realization of what he had said. Only where there are ley lines. To them, a place like the park is like a good fishing area. But once they realize the fish are not there anymore, they will move on to the next fishing ground. I have set up a light in the park for a couple of nights to make sure the umbrae can't come back, said the professor, holding up a missing piece of the statue. And he's in my dreams, said Adam, trying to understand what he was being told. Once you stop thinking of him, he will have no hold over you and give up. Now, where did I put that statue? The professor said, ducking down behind a bench. Mind you, a serious tone still in his voice, some people see these things in their dreams for years, he said, comparing the ceramic chip with the broken statue. Has anyone ever come back from the darkness? As he said it, Adam's mind was elsewhere, caught in a loop of worry. What if he was stuck there? How could he get out? Only not very easily. Once you enter, if you don't know where the portal is, you won't be able to find your way out. You would be as if a fish had jumped out of the river onto the bank, the professor's arm weaving about to prove his point. Do you know the first man to escape the darkness that we know of, a man called Adam Weishaupt? You may have heard of him, the professor said. No, said Adam, wondering why he should. He has the same name as you, yeah? Said the professor, making himself laugh. He was wandering around the Bavarian mountains with his good friend Jacob when a storm came up which caught them by surprise. They took shelter in a cave overnight to see out the bad weather, and Jacob set up a fire at the entrance to warm themselves. They were both sleeping by the fire when Adam thought he heard a baby crying. A baby? Said Adam. Not all umbrae appear as monsters, said the old man. The cave went a long way back, and as he went further in, he could see a swirling shape appearing in front of him. It looked like the beast of Gévaudan. The professor saw Adam's puzzled look. A werewolf, said the professor, getting a more favorable look. He was dragged into the darkness, the light from the cave disappeared, and the werewolf started to change into an umbrae. Just as all hope was lost, Jacob attacked the creature with a large rock. It dropped Adam to grab Jacob. He got to his feet to tackle the monster as well, but the umbrae turned and sideswiped him, knocking him into the air and landing by the fire. His head bashed against a rock, and he fell unconscious. When he awoke, it was morning. He searched the back of the cave, but there was no sign of the umbrae or his friend. Wow, when did this happen? Said Adam. 1776. Professor Weishaupt went on to form my society and invented some of the things in my possession that have helped me to save you and others. I must admit that the park is a bit of a hot spot when it comes to the umbrae. I may have to put up some path out of order signs for a couple of weeks. I saved an old woman who was looking for her cat the other night. The story was fantastical, bordering on the absurd, yet there was a certain credence to the old man's voice, a depth of conviction that hinted at the truth. Adam's world had become unbelievable, but oh so real. This must be a lot to take in, but you have nothing to worry about. But I would stay away from the park for a while if I was you. And remember, the creature in your dreams cannot hurt you. It'll go away after a while when it realizes you are not scared, I'm sure. Have they ever escaped? I mean, crossed over to our side? Adam said in a worried tone, thinking about Lilly being alone. Oh yes, all the time. Most can only cross over at night, where they can stay in the shadows and not too far from the portals. But in the Middle Ages, there have been a few occasions when a thaumaturge has summoned one for their own gains. Once in the real world, they looked like a beautiful woman in the daylight, lying and enchanting the summoner to get their heart's desires. And that never ended well. It was like sleeping with a wild tiger. "So how can you summon one, Professor?" Adam said sheepishly. "You don't need to know that, my boy. Only certain people can do that anyway. I know I can't. This umbre is the only one who knows of your existence, and it will soon lose interest in you, getting more and more frustrated with the statue and banging it down on the table so another piece fell off." "Look, Professor, I have to go. Can I see you again?" Adam said, realizing the time and panicking about Lilly. "What, so soon? I wanted to do an electroencephalogram on you. But, oh well, good luck, Mr. Jones. I'm here most of the time if you want me, unless I'm out." The professor looked at the young man, realized Adam's fears were still troubling him, put his arm around him and said, "Look, you have more chance of being run over by a bus than seeing one of these creatures again. It will be fine. Well, Mr. Jones, we will speak soon, no doubt." He shook Adam's hand and put his head under his desk, waved without looking up, and went back to fixing his statue. Adam looked around to find the exit, then started heading to the door. The cold bus ride home was not enough to shake Adam from his thoughts. His mind was a chaotic jumble of fragmented memories and unsettling images, leaving him exhausted and confused. His common sense was a dam against a rising tide of madness. Adam looked out the window, wondering if there could be something in the dark crevices of the street which whizzed past him. At his stop, he waited impatiently for the bus doors to open, then ran for home, thinking the darkness would not have enough time to snare him, not stopping until he was safely home and out of the shadows.
Chapter 8. Best Day of My Life. All the lights were out as he eased his way into the living room. He switched on the light and slowly made his way to his bedroom, opened the door just enough to see Lilly's sleeping body lying on the bed. Closing the door, Adam made his way back to the living room. Checking again that there was enough light in the room, he fell onto the sofa, turned over, and closed his eyes. Unable to switch off his thoughts, he wandered around in the darkness of his mind. Slowly, an image of a man walked towards him. As it got closer, he realized it was the demon. As Adam looked, it seemed to be more detailed, as if it was stepping slightly out of the shadows. The full image of the monstrosity appeared before him. A grotesque creature with semi-human features, its blood-red body with long curly horns, pointed ears, red eyes, cloven feet, and huge bat-like wings. It wore a striped waistcoat and shorts, and showed its sharp teeth as it spoke. "Give her back, mortal. She is not yours to keep. She belongs to me. If you don't do as I say, I will hunt you down, and I will kill you." With the professor's words ringing in his ears, Adam stood his ground and said, "You can't hurt Lilly or me anymore, demon. Go back to the blackness where you belong." The creature snarled and rushed forward. Adam, thinking that he couldn't be harmed, just stood there, but closed his eyes. The pain Adam felt was like a jolt of electricity surging through his body. He had never known such agony before. The muscles in his neck went into spasms as the demon strangled him. Adam felt his whole body lift off the ground, and he realized that he couldn't breathe. Just as he thought he was going to pass out, he heard Lilly's voice. "Adam, are you okay? Open your eyes." Adam sat bolt upright. He was on the sofa. Sitting next to him was Lilly. She reached over and kissed his now sweating brow. "Nightmare?"
Yes, but it felt so real, he answered. Try to forget it. Time is a great healer, darling. Lilly smiled and said, maybe this will help, as she stared into Adam's eyes, gently intertwined her fingers with his, and kissed him. Adam smiled and pulled her closer. Lilly had an evil grin on her face as she climbed into his waiting embrace. Adam hadn't noticed before, but Lilly was naked. She looked down and found what she was looking for. Before Adam could move, they were one. Lilly moaned softly as she started to rise and fall on Adam's passive body. As passion overtook them, she moved her thighs faster and said, "Fuck me, you horny bastard!" Adam was taken aback by this and could feel something between his legs. He looked up at Lilly. Her eyes had started to glow with a malevolent energy, and he laid there terrified as two bumps appeared from under her hair, morphing into long curly horns, a large tail appearing behind her. "Give me your seed, mortal, so I can suck the life force from you." A demonic scream came from Lilly's lips as she forcefully jumped up and down on his body, waiting for her gift of life. With the last of his strength, Adam struggled to get up and shouted, "No!" He bolted upright in bed, his heart hammering against his ribs. He was on his sofa, and Lilly had gone. He was alone. Adam caught his breath and looked around. Everything was quiet. The room slowly came into focus, blurry colors morphing into something resembling familiar shapes. The scent of embers from the log fire reminded him that he was no longer in the land of nightmares. He swung his legs over the side of the sofa and stood up, maybe a bit too quickly, and sat down again. This time he grabbed the arm of the sofa and slowly rose to his feet. Adam made his way to his bedroom and opened the door. Lilly was still asleep and hadn't moved. Adam took a big sigh, then smiled to himself, thinking he shouldn't have thought so little of Lilly, and stared at her for a while, then went back to the living room. "Couldn't sleep either, young man?" said his mother, who was leaning over the fireplace. "I heard you talking in your sleep." "No, not really, Ma. I was just checking on Lilly," said Adam, surprised to see his mother there. "She slept better than you did, I bet. Go and get some logs to start the fire while I tidy up the fireplace," as she started poking the ashes. The cold, crisp air cleared the remainder of any sleepiness thoughts that Adam had. The sun had just begun to rise over the houses that overlooked his garden. He started to feel a sense of calm wash over him. He felt his muscles relax and his heart rate slow down to a normal rate. Dropping the logs in the fireplace, he flopped into his mother's armchair and watched the fire roar into life. "Do you want some breakfast?" his mother said, rubbing the top of his hair as she headed to the kitchen. "Yes, please, Mom, I'm starving," he replied, not taking his eyes off the fire that roared into life. He stared at the crackling flames. Its hypnotic dance seemed to draw him deeper and deeper into its embrace. His eyelids began to feel heavy, and he slowly lowered his head. Adam opened his eyes, and sitting on the sofa was a smiling Lilly. "Morning, sleepyhead," she said. He looked down at the table. 2 bits of dry toast and a cold cup of tea stared back at him. "Was I asleep for long?" he asked. "Long enough. Your mom's gone to her friend's house," said Lilly, climbing on his lap and wrapping her arms around him. Adam felt anxious and looked for any signs of consciousness, but the warmth of the fire and Lilly's fingers brushing against his skin as she adjusted her posture put his mind to rest. Her simple touch sent a jolt of pleasurable electricity through him that no dream could ever emulate, and he slowly sank into the chair. Lilly started kissing his neck, then his ear, and turning his face to hers, kissed his cheek and then his waiting lips. A slow smile spread across his face. This was real. This girl's heart was beating as fast as his. This time there was no stopping them. He wanted her. Adam returned her kiss as she straddled his waiting body. He slowly started to remove her clothes, revealing her radiating beauty as she ran her hands up and down his chest. Adam lay there prone, waiting for the gift of her love. Suddenly, he grabbed her hands and said, "Lilly, I love you, but are you sure you want this? I mean, me and you?" Lilly placed her fingers on his. "I'm sure, darling. I have wanted you since the first day I met you. You are all I want." And she kissed him with a passion that he had never felt before. Slowly they moved as one, Lilly writhing on top of him, clenching his arm as she moaned in delight, his own passion welling up inside him, until, "Lilly, Lilly!" Adam's consummation of their love felt like an unprecedented, overwhelming emotion of ecstasy, pushing Lily's body to convulse uncontrollably. Adam could only lay there and marvel at her beauty. Lilly slumped onto his body and said, "I love you, Adam." The two lovers lay there, their souls finishing off feelings in their loving embrace.
After what seemed only minutes to Adam, the sound of a key rattling in the creak of the door brought the lovers back down to reality. Lilly quickly ran to the bedroom, but not swiftly enough. His mother stood there as Adam adjusted his trousers. "Hi, Mom. How was your, friend?" Before she had time to answer him, "Mom, I'll be back in a minute," and with that he ran to his bedroom. Lilly stood in the middle of the room. Adam curled his arms around her naked body, and they both suddenly started to laugh, quietly, of course. "Come on, we're going out." He grabbed Lily's hand as she threw on some clothes and went back to the living room. His mother was still standing there. "We're just going out, Ma," said Adam as they made their way to the door. "Adam," said his mother. "Bye, Mom," said Adam, and closed the door behind him. Once out in the daylight, Lilly closed her eyes, letting the sun warm her face, and breathed in the crisp, clean air. "So, where do you want to go, my darling?" she said. "Well, I thought we could go to your place to get some clothes. I don't want you to catch a cold," said Adam, as he put his arm around her and walked in the direction of the bus stop. "I'd rather not go there, Adam. I went there yesterday. My visit was a bit heated with my father, and I don't want to face him just yet," Lilly said sheepishly. "Okay, we'll go shopping," Adam said, smiling at her. "Adam, I have no money on me," said Lilly, with a worried look on her face. "No, but we do," Adam explained, interrupting her and taking her by the hand. The shopping center was a multi-level labyrinth of gleaming stores. The thrum of piped-in music and the throng of shoppers overwhelmed Lilly. They went into the biggest department store they could find, and Adam walked up to an elderly female shop assistant. "Can I help you, sir?" she said. "Yes, this young lady needs a nice outfit for today as it's getting colder," Adam said in a very proud voice, "and she can have anything she wants." Lilly looked at Adam with a big smile on her face. "Really?" "Yes, money is no object," Adam said, giving her a big kiss. With that, Lilly ran off into the store with the assistant following. Adam pulled the assistant back and said quietly, "No more than 300. She stopped, smiled, and said, "Yes, sir," and then followed Lilly. Lilly came out of the store dressed in a cream-colored cashmere sweater which hugged her slender frame, a matching skirt, and brown leather boots, providing a comforting warmth against the chill. "Wow, you look fantastic," Adam said, looking her up and down. "Why, thank you, kind sir," she said, giving a little curtsy. Adam grabbed Lily's hand again and said, "Are you hungry? I know this lovely pizza joint." They sat down in Doran's restaurant, a tiny, bustling pizzeria tucked away on a side street, and ordered one large pizza between them. It was a masterpiece of bubbling mozzarella with a generous helping of spicy pepperoni. The smell alone was enough to make their mouths water. Adam took a bite. The pepperoni and the creamy cheese melted in his mouth, and a satisfied groan escaped his lips, which made Lilly laugh. They talked for hours, losing track of time as they discovered shared dreams and passions. Adam felt a sense of ease with her, a comfort he had never experienced before. She made him laugh and challenged his thoughts in a way he had never thought possible.
The day was turning into a beautiful sunny afternoon after lunch as Lilly and Adam strolled along the pavement. To Adam, the world seemed to slow down as everything else passed them by normally. They found themselves by the large lake that was in the middle of town. Adam said, "I know, I'll take you out for a ride in a boat. They rent them out around the other side of the lake." By the time they got to the Jason's Rowboat Hire Company hut, the sun had decided to hide behind some big fluffy clouds. None of the boats were out, and an elderly man was tying 2 boats together with some ropes. "Is it too late to hire one of your boats, sir?" Adam said, tapping the man on the shoulder. "No, no, of course not, young man, not for such a beautiful couple as yourselves. Look, I'll give you the best boat in our fleet," pointing at a faded dove-gray dinghy. "It's comfortable and plenty of room for cuddles," said the man, smiling and winking at Adam. "Yes, thanks," Adam said, helping Lilly into the aged boat, which rested by the small wooden dock. "That'll be $25, please," said the man with a straight face. "What?" Adam's face looked shocked. He looked at the man, looked at Lilly, and parted with his money. He grabbed the oars and rowed out towards the middle of the lake. Once out in the center, he put down the oars and laid next to Lilly as they both stared up at the darkening clouds. "We shouldn't be out too long. I think it might rain," Adam said, putting his arm around her. "I've had a great day today, my love. The best day of my life," Lilly said, playing with his hair. Adam smiled. Their eyes locked in a silent conversation, a language spoken only by their hearts. A sudden jolt of the dinghy made them both sit up, as if the boat was caught on something, and before they had time to realize what was going on, another jarring thud threw the lovers into the uninviting lake. Adam managed to grab on to the overturned dinghy, but looking around, he realized he couldn't see Lilly. Adam shouted to her. Getting no answer and not seeing her on the surface, he ducked under the water. It was dark and murky, but he just managed to see an arm slowly sinking out of sight. He dived instinctively towards her, but the further he swam down, the darker it got. Soon he was surrounded by suffocating blackness. The pressure was a crushing weight that squeezed his lungs of air. A sense of panic took hold, but he didn't care. Feeling that his lungs were about to burst, he had no option but to reach for the world above. Adam thrashed about, arms and legs flailing wildly, but something was slowly forcing him into the abyss. "I warned you, human, not to carry on. Now I will take you into the darkness and devour your essence," spoke the demonic voice. "No!" shouted Lilly from somewhere in the depths. "This is not what we agreed. You said I could have more time." "He must die. He cannot remain to interfere with my plans. He has served his purpose," replied the creature. "If you let him go, I will stay here freely in the darkness and give you what you want. You cannot do this without me. I will kill myself if you don't let him go," cried Lilly. "You wouldn't dare," snarled the monster. "Don't test me." Then a noise that sounded to Adam like static electricity. "You know I will," Lilly said, in such a menacing tone it resonated with a chilling clarity that made the hairs on Adam's neck stand on end. "So be it," shouted the demon. Adam felt his legs go limp, and with a surge of adrenaline, he kicked with renewed vigor to the surface. A sense of urgency overcame him, a sharp stabbing pain in his chest, and a desperate plea from his starved lungs. He instinctively tried to breathe, swallowing the dirty green lake water. Starved of air, Adam passed out.
Chapter 9. Memories of Lilly. Adam's eyes snapped open, and the world swarmed into focus. He had an uncontrollable urge to vomit, water streaming from his nose and mouth, and he gasped for air. Adam looked up to see a worried boatkeeper. They were in the small company speedboat. "Thank God you're alive. I thought you were a goner there for a while," said the old man, moving to the front of the boat. Cupping his hand to his mouth, he shouted, "Hello, miss? Hello?" Turning back to Adam, he said, "I'm sorry, son, but I can't find her anywhere. I've called the police."
When the police turned up to carry on the search, Adam and Jason, the boatman, went back to the shore. A medic wrapped Adam in a blanket and checked him over. He seemed disappointed that Adam was going to make it. Detective Carmichael walked up to the dock and said, "All right, young man, are you up to answering a few questions?" His voice was a low rumble. Adam answered the officer's questions as best as he could, but he left out the underwater escapade. "I see," was all that the detective said, his voice dripping with skepticism. Writing something in his notebook before he closed it, he said to Adam, "Well, we haven't found the girl yet, so you can go for the time being, but we know where you live if we need to ask you any more questions." At that, Carmichael walked over to Tim. "Can I have a word?" as they both walked away. Adam walked over to the shore and stared at the lake. He replayed the ordeal over in his mind. Still groggy from nearly drowning, he struggled to recall what had happened. Was it all true? Did Lilly know that creature? And if so, what was she? Was she even human? He knew in his heart that she was human. She loved him in a way only a real person could. He must have imagined the conversion, a result of asphyxiation, his mind now a shattered piece of glass. He didn't want to believe she was gone. No, no! A flash of anger, hot and sharp, pierced his heart. Adam got up and ran towards the water's edge, the detective stopping Adam before he could dive in. "It's okay, Adam, it's okay. I know this is hard to understand, but she's gone. Lily's not in there anymore," said Bass, wrapping Adam tightly around his arms. Those words made Adam snap of his primeval emotion. At long last, his emotions spilled out, like a dam bursting its banks, and Adam sobbed like a lost child. Detective Carmichael put Adam into the black and white SUV. His mind no longer concentrating on the world around him. He stared blankly out of the window, not noticing the streetlights coming on as they went past them. The car pulled up outside his home, and Baz knocked on the door. Adam's mother opened the door. Her smile and the familiar crinkle around her eyes soon disappeared after seeing Detective Carmichael standing there. The color drained from her face, leaving her with a worried expression. "Mrs. Jones?" The detective's voice was low, respectful, but held a weight that made her stomach clench. She just nodded. "Adam, can you go into the living room, please? I just want to talk to your mother for a minute," said Bass, putting his hand on Adam's shoulder. Adam staggered to the sofa and sat down, watching the crackling fire, the only sound against the silence of the room. Embers popped and flared, sending brief orange flickers dancing off the walls. Did he hear Lilly and the demon talking, or was it a trick of a drowning mind? The line between reality and hallucination merged as visions of faces and places appeared in the flames, disappearing in the labyrinth of his thoughts. He was truly lost. "How are you doing, my darling?" Adam hadn't noticed his mother sitting next to him. "I'm sorry to hear about Lilly. She was a lovely girl," said his mother with a sympathetic smile. "Can I get you anything?" Adam didn't answer and just kept looking into the fire. Her hand rested tentatively on his arm, but he felt nothing. It was like trying to touch a ghost. Moving closer to him, she pulled him in for a cuddle. Adam's thoughts had become his tormentors, circling him, whispering the unthinkable and painting terrifying scenarios. A short while later, Adam had told his mother he was going to sleep and hit his bed hard as he flopped down. It didn't take long for the conscious world and the world of dreams to slowly merge into one. Out of the darkness of his dream, he saw Lilly coming towards him. She smiled and said, "Adam, I love you. Adam." The words seemed to fade in and out until finally she was standing in front of him. "I'm so sorry about everything, darling. I never meant to hurt you." Holding back her tears, she said, "I think I owe you an explanation. Not everything I told you was the truth. I have lied to you about a lot of things, and I wish I didn't have to.
When I came to this realm, I didn't die. I changed. I became an entity. I still had my conscience, but I was forced to do the Umbre bidding. But he wanted to do a deal. He promised me he would let me go, and I could be with you, but when I got out of the darkness, I would make love to you and get pregnant and come back. I would have to stay in the darkness until the baby was born. Then I would be free to go, but my baby would stay. I didn't know why he wanted me to do this, and I didn't care. I could get out and worry about everything else later. But I got you out, Adam blurted. He was watching you, and when you went through the park, he told me to shout your name. The demon tricked me, and as soon as I did what he asked, he pulled me back into the darkness. So all you wanted all along was to have sex with me? Adam angrily said. No, I love you. I want that no matter what. I think he sensed my intentions, and that's why he dragged me back without a chance to tell you, tears streaming from Lily's face. I'm sorry, Adam. I have promised him I will stay with him. What, forever? Adam angrily said. Until the end. He wants our baby, but I believe I will become one of those creatures before then, and after that he will let me die. Lily now sobbing uncontrollably. But how do you know you're pregnant? Adam asked, thinking there was no way to know so quickly. This is what these demons do, my love. They have done this many times before. You have to let me go, please. It promised me no harm will come to you if I do as he says. I know I can't change my fate, but if my death means anything, I want to know you will be safe. A sorrowful smile came over Tina's face, teardrops falling from her reddened cheeks, a sadness in her eyes that broke Adam's heart. I will get you out somehow. There must be some way to end this nightmare. Adam tried to reach out for her ethereal glow, but the mist just swirled around his fingertips.
My love, there is nothing you can do. The demon granted me one last look at you, to say goodbye. Lily blew Adam a kiss as she receded into the dissolving fabric of the dream. I love you, Adam. Never forget, I love you. Her woeful voice fading into the darkness. Adam's eyes snapped open. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting a warm glow on his familiar surroundings. His heart was still pounding, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He reached for the sky and shouted, "Lily!" at the top of his voice. His body stiffened, then relaxed, and fell back onto the bed. Her image, now just a lingering memory, he turned into his pillow and cried, "No, no, no!" over and over, until his sobbing overcame him. Adam's anguish suddenly stopped when he heard the sound of the front door creaking and the mumbling of voices. Thinking that it might be the police coming back with some more favorable information, he got dressed and went to the living room. I cannot do this, Jane. I've already hypnotized— Ah, good morning, my lad. Standing there was Professor Immerose, only just noticing Adam walking into the room. I've asked Gustav to talk to you. I'm worried about you, darling, said Adam's mother. You know the professor? Adam said with a surprised look on his face. We go back a while. We used to work together, your mother and I. Jane has told me what has happened. I am truly sorry for your loss. Work has kept me busy, and I dropped the ball when it came to keeping an eye on you, said the professor. And so did I, darling. I thought I could handle things, but it all happened so fast. Come and sit down. And you, Gustav, waving her arm toward the sofa. The professor spoke first. I think I should start from the beginning. Certain people have the ability to open rips or portals in the darkness. We think that this was discovered a long, long time ago. Only people who have it passed down through their genes have this talent. This Umbre targeted you because of who you are, and they knew you could push a demon through one of these portals. Lily is not a demon. She is a human, Adam interrupted. Hear him out, Adam, said his mother sternly. Did you sleep with her, young man? Said the professor. Well, it was,
Adam mumbled. "Oh dear," said his mother. The professor did not wait for Adam to answer. "A succubus's sole aim is to take the sperm from a victim and take it back to the darkness and have a demon baby. The only way it could survive in the light if it could trick a human into creating an image of it, maybe a painting or drawing so realistic that they could use that as a conduit to this realm." "No, no, Lilly is real," Adam said, but the seeds of doubt had started to grow, reaching into every memory he had of her. An insidious voice echoed in the back of his mind. What if the professor is right? "I know this must be hard for you, but you must forget her. Some people can go mad with all the worry. You must be strong. Move on. Don't let it consume you." The professor stood up. "Well, I will see myself out. Adam, if you want to talk some more, you can come to the museum. Jane, can I have a word?" summoning her over as he walked to the door. Adam got up and headed to his room. "Adam," called his mother, but he just kept walking. Once in his room, he sank onto the bed. Looking around, memories of Lilly danced in front of him. The world was now suddenly meaningless, the image of her face appearing, then vanishing, smiling, then longing, fond memories, then despair. The pain was the only anchor in the shifting sands of his reality. He got up to look in the mirror. Looking back at him was his reflection. He looked gaunt, eyes wide and bloodshot, hair disheveled, but he didn't care. All he saw was Lilly staring back at him. Adam stood there like a zombie. He let out a short laugh, a dry, rattling sound. It wasn't a laugh of amusement, but of despair. Then, placing his hands over his face, he started to sob again. The madness, he realized, wasn't creeping in. It had built a home, unpacked its bags, and was settling in for a long, unsettling stay. He laid on the bed and curled up like a newborn baby, his exhaustion giving way to nightmares as he once again found himself in the darkness. The demon stood in front of him, looked him up and down, and let out an almighty, unfettered roar of laughter as it bent over, holding its knees and tears streaming down its face. Now clutching its stomach as if from the pain of laughter, it said, "Go away, mortal. You are broken. Your mind is detached from your soul, and it floats in a pool of self-pity and despair. Your torture is my delight. I can feel your pain, and it is like the sun shining on my face on a hot summer's day, bathing me in a warm glow. I will make a deal with you. Give me back Lilly, and you can have my soul," Adam mumbled through his tears. Once again the monster let out a deafening roar of laughter. "You amuse me, mortal. Why do you think I want something like that?" It caught its breath. "Go away now. You are boring me." Adam suddenly stopped crying. "Give her back or I will kill you," his anger replacing tears. The monster's smile stopped. "You can't hurt me, boy. Be careful. People die in their sleep all the time, if you know what I mean. Don't test me. Go while you can." Adam woke up. His tears dried to his face. The fog of his mind was gone, replaced with a determination and purpose. He got dressed and walked into the living room. "I'm going out, Ma," he said as he walked past his mother. "Will you be home for tea, dear?" she shouted, but Adam had already closed the door. As Adam walked down the street, his heart hammered against his ribs. The dreams, Lilly, and the demon, was it all a trick of his mind? He felt a cold knot in his stomach as the doubt lingered. Adam realized that there was only really one way to find out.
Chapter 10. Planewalker. Wandering around in a daze, once again Adam found himself outside the York Museum. He pushed the revolving doors that opened into the grand hall and headed straight to the Roman section. "Hey, you, where do you think you're going?" Out of the corner of his eye, he could see that rude man he had encountered the other day. "You can't just walk in here and go where you want. You have to come to the desk first. We close in half an hour, you know." Stopping to face him, Adam looked like a man who had seen the true horrors of life's cruelty, and it had been etched onto every line and vein on his face. His eyebrows looked like taut mountain ranges. His mouth was half open, as in a silent, frozen gasp. His eyes pushed wide to the absolute limit of the sockets, and the pupils were sinkholes of despair. The concierge seemed to peer deep into Adam's nightmare. Saying nothing, the tedious little man just turned around and went back to his desk. Once again, Adam was knocking on the professor's door. "Come." Sitting back in his chair, his fingers pushed against each other, making an arch, sat Professor Emeros. "I had a feeling I'd see you today. For such a smart boy, I thought you would be less headstrung." "Don't try to stop me, Professor," said Adam, staring straight at the old man. "I don't think I could even if I wanted to. But have you thought about how you're going to do this?" asked the professor. "I'm going in there, finding her, and pulling her out," said Adam, pacing up and down. The professor smiled. "My dear boy, you wouldn't last 10 minutes in there. I could hypnotize you, of course, but it didn't turn out too well last time." "What? Why did you hypnotize me?" said Adam, shocked at what he had heard. "I promised your mother that I would look after you, but you are not making this easy. She said that you were talking about a girl you were going to see, and something didn't add up in her mind. Knowing the umbre could take a special interest in you, so she thought it would be wiser to make you forget any ideas of girls for a while. I told your mother that she should have told you years ago about who you are. You know that you come from a long line of planewalkers," said the professor. "What's a planewalker?" said Adam, amazed by all these revelations. "This is why I hoped you didn't come today. You'd better sit down," pulling up a chair. "Not everybody can just go through a portal without an umbre. I, for one, cannot, but in my society there are quite a few." "I'm a planewalker?" said Adam, plopping down on the chair. "Yes, my boy, you are. Because most of this was lost, we have no idea why certain people have this ability, and it's only handed down on the mother's side," said the professor. "Wait, my mother's a planewalker?" said Adam, not able to comprehend what the professor was saying. "Yes, and your grandmother. Both have worked for us before. Back in the day, they used to send people like yourself in the darkness if we believed someone had been taken, but it never ended well. The people that did make it back told stories of hundreds of these creatures in there. The head of our order, Professor Adam Weishaupt, who set up the society, decided to make it a secret organization, thinking the world was not ready for such a revelation. There have been several wars over the millennia trying to stop the umbre, but we lost them all. Now we stop the umbre wherever we can." "Wow," said Adam. "Look, Professor, I feel like I'm going mad. My mind has been broken by all of this, and I'm not sure what is real anymore. But I have to go, and if I die, then at least I will die knowing that I wasn't imagining it all. It's eating me up," said Adam. The professor bowed his head and let out a sigh. "Okay, if you still want to go, meet me tonight in the park at dusk, and for Christ's sake, don't tell your mother." Eddie headed for the door, but stopped and said, "Do you think Lilly is real, Professor?" "I hope for your sake she is, my boy." By the time Adam had made his way to the park, the sun had begun its slow descent into nihility, bathing the world in a gentle red glow. Sinking slowly behind the buildings that towered all around, it cast long shadows that were imbued with the sun's residual warmth, a soft embrace that gently pulled the world into slumber, a punctuation mark against the canvas of the fading light, merging into the embrace of a growing dread. As Adam approached the path where he would allow the darkness to absorb him, he saw a familiar figure standing under the last lamppost. Dressed in a black cape and with the hood up, Adam could hardly see his face, but he knew who it was. "Evening, Mr. Jones," said the professor. "Thank you for coming. I'm glad you're here," said Adam, looking around, seeing a few items scattered on the floor. "Still not changed your mind?" said the professor. Eddie shook his head.
Okay, my boy, pay attention, said the professor. When you go through that portal, you are no longer in this reality. It is a dark world where normality does not apply. The exit will close and will only open when you're near it. In the darkness, you will never find the exit again on your own. Here, the professor reached down and showed Adam the lantern he used the first time they met. They cannot handle the vibration of the crystal, and it will not disappear when you go through the portal. It will only last for 2 hours, and then the vibrations will stop and it won't work. He looked Adam straight in the eye. Please, if you haven't found her by then, come back, and you can always try again. The professor realized that pleading with Adam was a waste of time. He opened the back of the lantern and pulled out 2 bent copper rods. These are dowsing rods. Have you seen these before? Adam shook his head. These creatures can only come through the portal and stay in the shadows. The entrances are on laylines. You don't really need to know what they are, but these 2 rods will help find your way out. Here, he held them in both hands and pointed towards the dark area where Adam was trapped last time. The rods started to move towards each other as he moved closer to the darkness. You can see, the rods will show you where these ley lines are. So, when you're on the other side, they will point you in the direction of the exit. When or if you find Lilly, you must return as soon as possible, avoiding these creatures. If those creatures find you and you try to fight them, you will lose. The Umbrae are very protective of their world and will kill you. I have lost so many good people doing this, people who knew much more about this place than you do, so don't hang around. When or if you find Lilly, you must return as soon as possible, avoiding these creatures. Look, you have no way of finding her, and it's a suicide mission. Once the sun comes up, the portal will disappear, and you will be trapped there forever. Go home, and we'll find another way.
Adam could see the genuine, sincere expression on the professor's face, but said, "You know there is no other way." "Lastly, put this on," said the professor, passing Adam what looked like a diver's wetsuit. "What's this for? Am I going swimming?" "It has a small electric current going through it, so it won't disappear when you go to the dark realm. These creatures use electricity to attack. Hopefully the suit will help you to deflect some of their static charge," the old man said, helping Adam, who was trying, without much luck, to put on the wetsuit. Adam stopped what he was doing and thought. He understood the shocking truth of it all. This wasn't his own self-imposed insanity, but the quiet, constant presence of the world beyond the veil, a world he now realized was a terrifying reality. Should he go on? Was Lilly's salvation a step too far? It was beyond his comprehension, but it was also his folly, a madman's delusion that served no purpose besides getting him killed. "Damn it!" he cried, stamping his foot and looking up to the sky, as if to look for some sort of transcendental sign. Once again the image of Lilly came into his mind, and the feeling he had when they were together. He didn't want to die, but to live without her love would be worse. Sniffing back his emotions, Adam said, "Thank you, Professor, for doing this for me. If I don't come back and Mom asks, just say you haven't seen me," and gave a melancholic smile. "Adam, I'll ask you one more time not to do this. We don't even know if she is a demon herself. This is just a game to them, with their end game to drive you mad, so they can eat the perverse energy you will give them in their dark world. Please, my boy." Gustav grabbed Adam's arms and stared into his eyes. He searched for some sort of understanding. The vacant look he got back said everything. He let go of Adam's arms and gave the same lachrymose smile back. "I will wait here for you for 2 hours. Don't make me come in after you, as I won't have a lantern or suit to help me." The professor watched as Adam slowly merged into the embrace of the darkness. "Don't forget to turn the light on, and keep it on. It will help with the force going through the portal. Good luck, son." Adam felt the pull of something deep within the shadows as he walked towards the darkest part of the park. He turned on the lamp, but it gave out no real light, just a warmth coming from the front of it. The pull lessened, like wading through the sea and slowly walking towards the shore.
Soon the light from the park was almost gone. As Adam's eyes adjusted to the pitch black, he wasn't visualizing an absence of absolute nothingness, but a barren land from his dreams. He noticed a faint light now coming from the lantern and checked his watch, but it had gone, leaving just the wetsuit, which seemed to have small crystals which gave off a faint light dotted all over it. He looked around. There was a thin blue dull light on what he perceived to be the horizon, and small points of light that would suddenly apparel over the landscape, then disappear. There was the rumble of thunder way off in the distance, no rain, but lightning that would hit the tops of mountains and slowly cascade like a babbling brook. As his ears adjusted to the silence, he thought he could hear screaming and then laughter like a faint whisper on the breeze. The air was heavy and thick and smelled of rotten eggs. Something seemed to be pulling his body down, as if he was carrying something heavy on his back. As he looked up, he saw a small patch of stars to the right of him that slowly moved in the otherwise black sky. He had no idea where he was going, but stumbled on ahead, trying to count his footsteps. He suddenly stopped walking and just stood, a lone and unmoving figure amidst the all-encompassing darkness. What was he visualizing? Could he trust his eyes, or was it a trick of his unraveling imagination? He realized that his life had become a series of automatisms, and he was coming to the conclusion that he couldn't trust his reality. What was the reason he was standing there? Was it because it was the right thing to do? Was it love? To know what he was doing was real? Or was it his ego not wanting to be wrong? And whatever the reason, was it enough? His thoughts started to spin, and he shook his head to shake all the deliberations from his mind. It was too late to worry now. He held up the lantern, took a deep breath, filling his lungs with the dusty and foul-smelling air, and forced himself to move his right leg forward, and carried on. After a while, Adam could see a faint light and hear muffled noises off in the distance. He stopped walking again and thought, should he go towards it? But on the basis that he had not seen anything since he arrived, he decided to get closer. The sounds turned into moans and heavy breathing. Puzzled, Adam approached the light. He saw it slowly fading into a bedroom. Inside, there was a scrawny kid. He must have been about 18 years old and a bit of a nerd, or so Adam thought.
He was laying on the bed with his trousers around his ankles. And sitting on top of him was this beautiful nude girl. She was riding up and down on the boy's prone body. Her moans were sensual, and her stunning body seemed to glow. "Oh, Aggie, you are the best! I love you!" cried the boy. Adam stepped forward, not noticing that he was now barely 15 feet from the room. Throwing her long dark hair over her head, the girl looked up. Adam thought she looked straight at him, and she let out an unholy screech. In an unnatural movement, she leapt up from the bed and moved towards him. Adam froze in panic, his feet rooted to the spot, as if encased in lead. He saw this ethereal beauty now slowly dissolve into a starfish-shaped ball, which kept changing its form. As darkness engulfed the entity, Adam could see a static electricity outline which randomly faded in and out around its shape. It rushed towards Adam, and he immediately started to feel weaker. Adam grabbed the lantern and thrust it in front of him. The monstrous doopy stopped dead in its tracks, the light on its body intensifying. "Aji, come back, my love, we have not finished," cried the boy, with a mischievous smile on his face. "I still want you to ravish me." Without turning around, the creature moved back to the light, transforming once again into an apparition of the enchantress. The couple carried on as if nothing had happened. She continued to grind away on this poor, euphoric young man. Adam turned and ran with all his strength until the light was no more than a pinprick and dropped to his knees. Unable to stop himself, he started to sob. Whether it was from the realization that he was out of his depth, the horror he had just witnessed, the knowing there was no chance of finding Lilly, or knowing there was a very good chance of dying here, he did not know. He wasn't a hero. He just worked in a burger bar.
He didn't know how long he had been there, but a primeval survival mechanism kicked into his fragmented mind. Adam got up. He was no longer thinking of Lilly. He just had to get out. He took out the 2 dowsing rods and, placing the hook of the lantern high on his arm, held the rods out in front of him. They didn't move. He moved in a circle, but still nothing. He started to laugh at the hopelessness of the situation he had placed himself in, then screamed at the top of his voice, "No!" Then suddenly stopped, realizing that he might attract unwanted attention. Putting the nugatory rods back in the lantern, he looked around. Not knowing which way to go, but using what common sense he had, Adam guessed roughly which way he had come from and headed back in that direction. Chapter 11. The Unwavering Loyalty. The faint light from the lantern was not much help. Besides showing him where not to stumble, it revealed very little. Adam remembered that the small patch of stars in the sky was to the right of him when he came into this nightmare, and used that to head in a rough direction that he thought was back the way he came, hoping they hadn't moved too much. He was losing track of time, and so started to run. Then in the darkness he heard a sound that wasn't the wind or the frantic beating of his own heart. It was soft at first, barely a whisper carried on the cold air, but undeniably human. It came again, louder this time, a drawn-out sigh of agony that seemed to emanate from just beyond the lantern's gaze. He crept forward until he could see that it was someone lying slumped down on the floor. Lilly? The naked body had begun to jellify, and Adam could see veins through its skin. He shone the lantern up to its face. The gelatinous features were almost unrecognizable. Adam stared at the countenance that looked strangely familiar. "Joe?" Adam blurted out. "Is that you?" He looked at Joe's body. The blackened veins were pumping his lifeblood very slowly, and his muscle definition looked more like jelly than the human form. Not knowing what to do, Adam shone the lantern on Joe's face to get a clearer view. The skull could clearly be seen through the liquefied skin. Adam felt shocked, confused, and sick to his stomach, but after a while, Joe's head moved. Joe, can you hear me, buddy?" Adam said softly. Joe moved his head again. "Adam, is that you?" "Yes, Joe, it's me. How are you feeling?" Adam said, moving closer to Joe to better hear the whispered gasps. "I thought I was finished, mate. I thought this was it. I knew my body was changing into something else, but I had no will left to fight. I couldn't talk, move, or think. Then I felt a light on me, as if a warm light on a bright summer's day was bringing me back from my fate," Joe said, turning his face to the lantern. Adam could see Joe's skin color started to change back to normality as blood began to be pulled more vigorously in his veins, and he moved the lantern even closer. "Joe, we can't stay here. They could come back any moment." He grabbed Joe's arm. His fingers sank unnaturally deep into his skin, and Adam let go. "Just leave me, pal. If you stay here, they will find you too, and where will that get us? Go before you're discovered. I don't want to die here, but there's nothing you can do. I was stupid and threw my life away because of my curiosity and stubbornness to prove you wrong, but I don't want you to die here as well. Don't let that be on my conscience." Joe's fingers moved in a slight gesture for Adam to move away. Adam realized that Joe couldn't be moved, at least not yet, but seeing how the lantern was helping, he hoped it could heal Joe enough to get him to his feet and out of this god-awful place. He sat down and shone the lantern as close to Joe's crumpled body as possible. Smiling, Adam said, "So, dude, how did you manage to find yourself in this mess?" Joe just laughed. "I'm sorry, man, but after you two humiliated me, I stormed off, walking around for hours. I knew that the she-bitch was a demon, and I wanted to find out for myself. So when it was dark, I went to the park. There was a temporary lamp set up in the exact place you said. I looked around, and when no one was looking, I turned it off. I didn't hear or see anything. I was there for hours. Then I heard a thump, like something heavy had just been dropped. I spun around, searching for the sound that came from the deepest part of the darkness. Then another thud. I started to see this creature. It stayed in the shadows, and most people would think it a giant spider, but I knew what it was. It was Lolth, Queen Demoness of the 66th layer of the Abyss. Adam looked at his friend, not really knowing what he was talking about. If you don't know who that is, she has 8 giant spider legs, a beautiful half-naked body, and an ample bosom, and she was taunting me with her starlight eyes. After the initial longing and loathing I had for her, I realized I was in trouble. I turned to run away, but before I could take a step, 2 of her spider legs grabbed me and started to wrap me up in a giant spider web. Helpless and unable to move, she dragged me into the darkness. As the light of the world disappeared, things changed. Gone were the web and my clothes. The demoness changed into a 5-pointed entity with static energy all over its body. Then it hit me, a sudden feeling of weakness, as if I had been up playing computer games all night. I don't know how, but the creature knew my name. It laughed and said I must have been the easiest prey I'd ever caught. I'm sorry to admit my bravery and defiance also left me, and I could do nothing besides just lie there, awash with emotions and fear, while the creature stood over me. After a while, it left, and I managed to get to my feet. I had no idea where I was or how to get out. I tried to retrace my steps, but everything was so dark I could barely see in front of me, and all I could hear was the frantic rhythm of my heart from the terrifying realization I was completely lost. I don't know how long I was walking for before it came back, but by this time I felt a chill seeping into my bones. It just stood there, and I felt weaker and weaker. I did try to get away, find a way out, and warn you about the she-bitch, but in the end I couldn't move. It kept coming back. I couldn't see or think straight. My body started to change into a sticky mess on the floor, and any energy I had was gone. I resigned myself to my fate and waited for the end. I've been here for hours, all thoughts fading from my mind. That's when I felt your light on my face. Ah, about Lilly. We should have told you the truth. Lilly was trapped here too, but she reached out to me, and as you know, I managed to get her out, he said, smiling in a reassuring manner. As the truth sank in, Joe's face went from a blank expression to a horrifying transformation as the muscles in his jaw seemed to clench with anger at his stupidity. His eyes, once gray, returning to the color of life, and now the sharp pinpricks of an icy stare. "You mean this is all your fault? You bastard! Why lie to me? I'm your best friend!" Joe tried to get up, the movement in one of his legs returning, but grabbed Adam as he began to fall. The 2 men looked each other straight in the eye. The memories of their friendship, shared history, their unspoken understanding, the unwavering loyalty was embedded within them. Joe's anger began to recede, and he sank back to the floor. No longer wrapped up in his thoughts, he smiled and said, "And why do you look like you're just about to go scuba diving?" "Look, Joe, I was going to tell you, but Lilly thought you couldn't handle what was happening. I'll tell you all about it, but let's get out of here first, buddy," Adam said, helping Joe to his feet once again.
"I bet she did," said Joe, grabbing Adam's hand and climbing to his feet. "So which way?" looking at Adam with a bamboozled look on his face. The men looked around. There was nothing but a blue light on the horizon and the occasional lights in the distance that blinked for a moment, then disappeared. Not getting a reply from Adam, Joe said, "Okay, dude, let's go this way," and pointed to his best guess direction. Adam took Joe's arm. He noticed the pigmentation was now starting to resemble normality and moved it to point in the direction in which he was hidden before he found him. Half lifting, half carrying him, they staggered into the darkness, Adam explaining everything that had happened, leaving out the part where he wasn't actually looking for him. They hadn't gone very far when the light from the lantern turned off. The pitch black was only broken by the small crystals on his wetsuit and a slight shadow of their bodies. "Shit! Shit! Shit!" yelled Adam, frantically tapping the small middle box, hoping the light would return. "Not now."
Adam held up his hand and pressed firmly against his forehead, not believing his bad luck. "Where's the light gone?" said Joe. "It's dead," shouted Adam, and threw the lantern as far as he could into the void. He looked at Joe. The strength he had to get to his feet was now gone. Worrying about his friend, Adam asked, "How are you feeling, pal?" Joe felt like shit, and his skin felt like it was on fire, but he gritted his teeth and said, "I'm fine," knowing that if he dropped, he wouldn't get up. Adam was ready to give up himself. The constant pull of this world, the heaviness of his friend's body, and the hopelessness of the situation all weighed heavy on this mind, but he was determined he wouldn't let them die there. There must be a way out of this nightmare. "The dowsing rods," said Adam, thinking he had nothing to lose by trying them again. Then, realizing where they were, shit! Leaving Joe only just standing, Adam scrambled around in the dark, looking for the lantern. It was barely visible, but there was a faint, almost phosphorescent glow from it. He opened up the back and pulled the 2 rods out. Holding them out in front of him, he spun around in all directions, looking for any sign of movement. Then, just a bit, the rods moved slightly. Adam moved away, and the rods opened, moved back, and they started to close. He rushed back to get Joe. "Hang on to me, Joe. We're nearly there." With Joe hanging off him and his eyes struggling to see the rods, they carried on into the darkness. Once more, they set out into the darkness, with Joe stumbling occasionally and Adam finding it hard to see the small, scarcely lit rods. Their progress was slow. The darkness started to have the same effect as a flotation tank. Their breathing was the only sound they could hear. Adam started to see vague, shimmering dots in front of him that disappeared when he stared straight at him. He could even see him with his eyes closed, except for one dot that he could only see with his eyes open. As he peered at this dimly lit speck, thinking he imagined it at first, but the light began to inflate, like a bloom unfurling in slow motion. "Joe, look, see? It's the way out." Joe looked up. The small hole seemed to be a tunnel with a light at the end and shadows pushing back the edges of the void. The 2 men looked at each other and hugged with pure, unadulterated joy, with broad, triumphant smiles on their faces. It was as if a surge of energy raced through their bodies. Still hanging on to each other, they quickened their steps with a newly found vigor. How Adam could go from elation to dread in a blink of an eye, he did not know, but the feeling came over him like a wave crashing upon the shore of his mind. He stopped dead in his tracks. Joe, smiling, looked up at his friend, his smile disappearing when he saw Adam's expression. "What's the matter, dude?" said Joe, his color slowly draining away. Adam said nothing. The feeling he had was both disconcerting and familiar. Adam's heart began to hammer against his ribs. Every muscle in his body tensed, and the hairs on his arms stood to attention, like soldiers on parade. His eye widened with a sudden alarm and scanned for the source of his disturbance. Adam spun around, and off in the distance he saw it, dots of lights blinking on and off, slowly moving towards them. "Joe, we have to move faster, mate. I don't think we're alone anymore," said Adam, dragging Joe's exhausted body in the direction they needed to go. Joe's face dropped. He knew what Adam's words meant and tried running as best he could, wincing from the pain of the hurried movement. They didn't get very far until Joe's frail body couldn't handle the exertion and crumbled to the floor. "Come on, Joe." Adam reached down to Joe and went to grab his arm, then stopped, realizing that it was too late. The Umbra was behind him.
Chapter 12. A very surprised expression. "Mr. Jones, you must be more stupid than even I gave you credit for. Though I think it was foolhardy to come and rescue your friend, I must give you some kudos for that, even though it will be your undoing." The creature didn't move, only the streaks of static electricity jumping all over its body. "Now I will finish off what I should have done when I first met you." The electricity seemed to intensify all over the entity's body as he stood over him. Adam knew what would happen next and closed his eyes. "No!" Running from behind the creature, out of nowhere appeared the naked figure of Lilly. "You said you would not harm him," she said, standing in front of Adam. "I'm sorry, my child, but this mortal has vexed me for the last time. Step aside. I do not want to harm you. All of this has altogether taken up too much of our time. Be careful, Lilly, or I will just make you start again. I tire of all this." The creature just stood there. "Oi, ugly," said Adam, pushing Lilly behind him. "There's a saying where I come from, you can fuck the right off." Looking at Lilly, Adam said, "Darling, I will always love you. Don't ever forget it. Now take Joe and make your way to the portal. Don't look back. I will be right behind you." Lilly looked into Adam's eyes. She knew the truth of his words, but picked up Joe and headed for the small street lamp. The monstrous creature let out one almighty laugh, letting Lilly and Joe disappear out of sight. Without moving, it said to Adam, "What do you think you have accomplished, mortal? Once I have killed you, slowly and painfully, I will wait in the darkness and watch, and when the time is right, I will just pull them back into this domain. You see, no one can escape me. You are no more than a bee trying to sting me, a very annoying one at that, but it is time I squatted you." And with that, it rushed at him. Adam instinctively covered his face as electricity surged from the creature's body all around him. The initial pain Adam waited for never came, and he opened his eyes. Where there were bumps on his wetsuit, the crystals had brightened, and he felt no pain. He watched as the creature clung to his suit, unable to hurt him. Adam looked at the entity's attempt to suck his life energy from his body, but was having no effect. All the emotions, pain, suffering, and anguish this creature had put him through turned into rage. Knowing that he could no longer be hurt by this entity, Adam saw red. He never wanted to hurt something so badly in all his life. "Oh, you're going to get it now," said Adam, and pushed the creature back a couple of feet. Clenching his fists, he said, "I'm going to kick the living shit out of you, you piece of crap." Adam started to swing at the umbre, knocking it back again. "This one's for Joe," he said, and kicked it as hard as he could, sending it flying backwards. "And this one's for Lilly," kicking it with the other foot. Adam stopped. A dread came over him as the umbre started to metamorphosize. The electricity stopped, and its shape changed from a pulsing entity to the very tall figure of a man. Not a man, but a demon. The demon that he had seen before, with horns and hooves. The umbre's claws swung out wildly at him, Adam just managing to pull back at the last moment, but to no avail. The long talons ripped through the suit and deep into his skin. The pain was excruciating. Before Adam could do anything, the monster pounced, picked him up by his arms, and threw him 10 feet into the air. Adam tried to land on his feet, but at the last moment he twisted his leg. The pain was intense, and he didn't know if he had broken it, but he felt his leg, and there was a large lump that shouldn't be there. He could see the umbre moving towards him and realized that he couldn't fight the monster and win, so with the last of his strength, he got up on his one good leg and started hopping as fast as he could towards the light. In his panic, he didn't see the tree branch on the floor and tumbled over it and landed face down. He looked up for any signs of Lilly, Joe, or the professor, but couldn't see anyone. Standing over him was the umbre, steam snotted out of his nostrils. Before Adam could do anything, the monster had grabbed him round the neck and lifted him into the air, so he was a good 3 feet off the ground. "You worthless insect," said the demon, and started to strangle him, crushing his windpipe. Adam clawed at his throat, his eyes bulging, gasping for air that he couldn't get into his lungs. The sounds of the monster shouting at him became muffled and distant, and his vision began to narrow, the edges of his sight blurring into a gray haze. A sharp, searing pain impaled into his side, and Adam's body went limp. Adam wandered through the darkness. There was no sound, and he had no direction or hope. The clammy tendrils of mist clinging to his skin felt heavy and thick. He called out, his voice a pathetic whisper swallowed by the oppressive black emptiness. "Lilly! Lilly!" Through the black fog he heard a scream torn from a throat that could only have come from his true love, a sound that ripped through the deafening silence of the darkness like a jagged knife.
It was Lilly's voice, and it wasn't a cry of surprise, but of pure, unadulterated reverberation of terror. He blindly stumbled forward, his arms outstretched, with his heart hammering against his ribs. The screams continued, closer now, punctuated by a primeval roar that was decidedly not human. It was deep, rasping, and filled with a predatory hunger that made the hair on his arms stand on end. "Lilly!" A cry of desperation ripped from his own lips. He could hear her struggling, gasping for breath, the sounds of fabric tearing, then a sickening thud. He pushed harder through the swirling fog, his lungs burning. His mind screamed for her, but the darkness seemed to defy him and pressing in and holding him back. The screams had stopped and became choking, gurgling sounds with the relentless laughter of a monster. He was close, so close that he could feel the vibrations of the struggle. A smell of sulfur attacked his nostrils. With the final desperate surge of adrenaline, Adam lunged forward, bracing himself for whatever horror awaited him. He thrashed about, reaching out his arms to get away, fighting against the invisible force now holding him down. The darkness started to clear, and the swirls of mist became lighter and lighter. The two arms that pinned him down no longer belonged to the invisible beast. He opened his eyes. He could only make out blurry shapes and muted colors at first. The first image that came into focus was Lilly hovering over him with a worried look on her face. "Adam, it's okay. You're safe now. You're in hospital," she cried, holding his arms down to stop him from hurting himself. Adam collapsed back down onto the bed. His brow was wet with warm sweat that trickled down his neck, the panic look in his eyes slowly dissipating. Lilly let go of his arms once she saw he was now in the land of the living, but to be on the safe side, rushed to hold his hand with a gentle firmness.
"I thought I had lost you," she cried, and squished Adam with an all-embracing hug. A sharp pain leapt from his side, and Adam reached down to feel a mass of bandages and tape stuck to his stomach just above the hip. He looked down to see bandages around his chest and hip, with his leg in plaster. He was lying in a small hospital room, with machines bleeping and a drip in his arm. Off to one side, in a tight-fitting armchair, sat the professor, who smiled back at him. Once the realization of where he was sunk in, Adam wrapped his arms around Lilly to hold her and make sure she wasn't a dream. Adam looked for Joe. He wasn't in the room. Panicking about his friend, Adam tried to speak, but all that emerged was a strained guttural sound, like a frog caught in a car engine. Lilly rushed to get the water with a straw that was sitting on the table by the bed. After taking a few small gulps, he cleared his throat and tried again. Forcing the words out, he said to Lilly in a very croaky voice, "Where's Joe?" and started to rise from the bed once more. "Adam, it's okay. He's okay," Lilly said, waiting for Adam to relax. Then she continued, "But he's in a bad way. The doctors have placed him in an isolation ward, as they are worried he could get an infection with his weakened condition and have induced a coma. But they say he should pull through. That is more than I can say about you. Now lie down before you rip your stitches." Lilly slowly lowered Adam back on the bed and hugged him once again, parting his hair as if she was opening curtains on his situation. After taking in the healing properties of Lilly's embrace, he turned to the old man in the chair. His throat felt like sandpaper, but managed to say, "Professor, how did I get here?" The old man lowered his head and with a sheepish look on his face said, "I'm so sorry, my boy. I just want to say I didn't mean it. I waited for you long after the 2 hours were up. The first thing I saw were 2 naked bodies emerging out of the void. The closer I got, the more I could tell it was Lilly and Joe. She was part pulling, part carrying him. He looked in a terrible shape, so I ran towards them. I took off my jacket and gave it to her, grabbed Joe's arm, and told Lilly that I should get them to my car. I took one look at Joe and knew he was going to need medical attention. By Joe's skin colorization, I realized what had happened to him,
and suggested that we take him to the hospital straight away. Lilly, in a state of panic, told me what was happening to you, so we placed Joe on the back seat. I went to the boot of the car and picked up my crossbow that I had for emergencies, just in case things went south. Securing Joe, Lilly and I ran back to the lamppost. As we turned the corner, we could see you with the umbre. He had lifted you off the ground and was choking the life out of you. Your body was limp and lifeless. I feared the worst. The professor shifted on his seat, let out a little cough, and said, "Well, it all turned out all right in the end," and smiled at Adam. With this, Lilly looked straight at the professor. The color drained from her face, a look of anger appeared, and blood vessels on her forehead thickened and reddened. "He shot you," blurted Lilly, and she started to cry. Adam looked at the professor with a very surprised expression. "Well, yes, my boy. When we got back, I saw the umbre in the shadows. You were just hanging there. I thought it had killed you, so I shot it. You must understand, I didn't see a demon. It was, well, a giant bunny rabbit." The professor looked away. "Unfortunately, the silver bolt went straight through him and dug into you as well. But we did manage to kill it. Well, you can't actually kill these things. They're sort of immortal. But it dissolved, and we won't see that one for a while, which is a relief." The professor let out a sigh and smiled. "Well, I will leave you two young people alone. I have things to do in the park, and I want to see your mother. Don't worry, I have put her in the picture. She's worried about you and can't wait to get you home," he said, and he got up to go. "What did you say to the doctors?" Adam said, with a worried look on his face. Well, we told the truth. Well, sort of. I brought you into the hospital and said I found you in the park. I said I think someone attacked you with a knife. And as for the choke marks, broken leg, they think they were caused by the struggle. The police are looking into it." The professor smiled back at Adam. "Lilly brought Joe in and said she found him in his room in that condition. Let Joe talk his way out of that. Whatever he says, they won't believe anyway." "Professor, how long?" Adam said, straining to speak clearly. "The umbre? How long before it comes back?" Adam said, straining to speak clearly. "I don't really know, Adam, but they don't come back straight away. It could be 2 months or 2 years, or maybe never. There's not a lot of information on it." And with that, the professor put on his hat, touched the tip, and walked out of the door. Adam looked at Lilly, her eyes still damp with tears, and smiled, a smile that said more than words could ever say. "I love you, Lilly. It can't harm you any more, and if it comes back, I will kill it again. I will protect you with every fiber of my being. You don't have to fear it any more," Adam said, feeling very brave from the comfort of his hospital bed, moving slightly, which sent a twinge of pain up his side. Hugging Adam to the point of discomfort, Lilly looked deep into Adam's eyes. "Darling, I love you, and I will always love you. I know you will look after me," Lilly said, the words feeling comfortable on her lips. "All I need is your love. As long as you love me, I know that nothing bad will happen to us. Our baby will be brought up in this world, and I will protect you both and make sure we have a good life, I promise." Lilly held Adam closer, burying her face in his chest so that he couldn't see the inauspicious smile on her face. Adam lay there, the question of who Lilly was now no longer consequential. He didn't care what stormy sea drove Lilly to his store, just that it did. The word love couldn't come close to how he felt about her. He had only one life now. That was with Lilly. Sometimes you can't help who you fall in love with or how deeply, and sometimes you just don't care.